Chapter 201, Preparations on Leon's Side. Preparations on Leon's Side. The second day of the Great War. El Dorado, the domain ruled by Demon Lord Leon Cromwell. One of the four fiends of the Heaven Commanders, Cagali, began to move. After the Walpurgis ended, each of the Demon Lords returned to their own territory in order to prepare for the Great War. The Black Knight Claude also returned to Leon. After parting with Chloe, it took a while to return due to his caution towards Yuuki's notice. Even if he took quite a while, from Claude's point of view, it was very necessary for him to be extremely cautious. He returned and requested an audience with Leon. Obviously, Claude believed that the audience would take quite a while to take place, since there was a possibility that he is still brainwashed. However, Claude was guided straight before Leon. As such, he explained all of the events that happened up till now. With the clone Shadow Knight left behind, he had continued to grasp the situation. In other words, he knows about the Crimson Purge by the Scorched Dragonville grind, Yuuki usurping the ultimate skill Justice Lord Michael from Rudra, as well as the discord between Demon Lord Rimuru and Yuuki. He was able to grasp everything through his Shadow Knight. His Shadow Knight was destroyed afterwards due to contact with the Angel of Armageddon that Rudra activated. But it could be said that he had succeeded in gathering enough information. For Claude, his utmost priority was to bring his intel to his master Leon, whom he has pledged his allegiance to, even at the risk of his life. And his wish came true. Leon has now learned it all. Well done. 2 words. It's a disappointing response. However, for Claude, those words were priceless. Those words are more than I deserve. Claude became overwhelmed with emotion. However, he understood that it is not the time to be immersed in emotion. And that is the same for Leon too. The intel from Claude was more detailed than what Demon Lord Rimuru had explained at the Walpurgis. Does this mean Demon Lord Rimuru is trying to steal the march over the other Demon Lords? Leon couldn't throw away such a doubt, but he judged that that was not the whole truth. There was no contradiction between Rimuru's and Claude's information. His doubt about the exaggeration of the enemy forces was cleared up. If that's the case, it can be said that the enemy has gigantic war potential. Claude, do you think that we can oppose them right now? The Black Knight Claude is the strongest knight among Leon's subordinates, so he sensed some value in Claude's opinion. I am afraid. I need to express my honest thoughts. As the difference in the number of this side and that side is great, perhaps, at best we can oppose an army of 50,000 angels, assuming we devote ourselves to defense. Not to mention, if we tried to attack outside the city barrier, defeat may very well be inevitable. What do you mean? Claude Dono, we would be defeated. We are Leon Sama's strongest knights. As if we would be beaten by the angels. Each leader of the Magic Knights got angry by Claude's remark. But, Leon suppressed them. Leon closed his eyes and began thinking. He thought that Claude's statement was correct. Even if he compared it simply based on the war potential, aside from the Knight Leader class who are on Pseudo-Demon Lord class, the best that the normal knights could do would be fight against several angels. Perhaps the angels who absorbed the people of the mixed corps that Claude affiliated with before may have fighting power which exceed a rank. If the angel army, which only consists of such special individuals, came, then his side would have the lesser war potential and numbers. He could agree to the prediction, defeat would be inevitable. Do I have no choice but to strengthen the barrier and go out and attack myself? But, that's a really bad move. Leon is thinking. He figured that the chance of victory was low in the case that his subordinates clashed with Cagali. After all, she seems to have fused with an angel of Seraphim class who has energy rivaling that of an awakened Demon Lord. If it's Cagali, who was the former Demon Lord Kazarim who had lived for several hundred years, it'd be no wonder even if she obtained the ability that can rival an awakened Demon Lord. Perhaps, there's a possibility that she is better than that, or so Leon thinks. In that case, there's no other choice but for him to fight. But in that case, the preparation against the angel army itself is tough, right? That is the problem. If he goes to fight by himself, Leon believes that he wouldn't get defeated even if his opponent is Cagali, but at the same time he predicted that Claude and co wouldn't be able to oppose the angel army. Not to mention, in the case that his fight with Cagali dragged on, there is a possibility that he would get attacked from the rear by the Angel Army after they destroyed his country. It wouldn't be a problem if he is able to deal with Cagali quickly, but that would be an optimistic outlook. After all, Cagali knows of Leon's trump card, ultimate skill purity Lord Metatron. It was a big mistake for Leon to let Cagali and Yuuki escape when he fought them before. The tab now falls on Leon. When Leon opened his eyes, he surveyed his subordinates. The Chief Knight, Silver Knight Alros. The strongest Knight, Black Knight Claude. And, each Knight leader who leads the 4 Knight Orders. Red Knight Order. Magic Knights skillful in offensive magic belong to this order. 4,000 members. The leader is the Red Knight Fran. A woman. Blue Knight Order. Magic Knights skillful in support magic belong to this order. 2,000 members. The leader is the Blue Knight Oxytion. A man. Yellow Knight Order. Magic Knights skillful in defensive magic belong to this order. 3,000 members. The leader is the Yellow Knight Kizna. A woman. White Knight Order. Magic Knights skillful in recovery magic belong to this order. 1,000 members. The leader is the White Knight Maetel. A woman. Those 6 people were the strongest of the Magic Knights. They are people capable of defeating something along the lines of an Archdemon. As for Fran, she has matured into a person who can handle stronger magic as she has experienced death once. They are a lineup of people who would not look inferior even if compared with the other Demon Lord's armies. There might be a chance for victory if I order all of them to go fight and die. But go and die, if he ordered such, Leon knew that they would sacrifice their bodies for him with pleasure. However, that's why, it is an order he will never be able to give. Then, what he needs to do. Leon-sama, a guest seems to have arrived. The clear voice of a woman reported to Leon, who was in his thoughts. It is Kizna who is skillful in defensive magic. She perceived some people had trespassed the barrier. And so, his problem would be settled instantly, by the intruder's arrival. The one who came was Misery, the demon subordinate of Guy Crimson. And, for Leon, she brought a shocking proposal. Leon-sama, I'm terribly sorry to bother you after the wall purchase. On this occasion, I received the will of my master Demon Lord Guy Crimson and came here. Let's cooperate for the Great War, is the message I'm told to pass to you. With a respectful bow, Misery informed Leon. Leon looked at Misery. She kneeled before his eyes, and bowed her head to Leon. But, the impression he got from Misery was stronger compared to before. He can feel that her power has increased greatly. She interacted humbly with Leon because he is a friend of Guy, but her ability seems to have come to rival an awakened Demon Lord. What exactly happened? He had that question, but he considered it reassuring since they're not hostile with each other. If there's cooperation from Misery, opposing Cagali might be possible. I see. I guess it's no use to keep putting on airs. Honestly, I'm saved. But, is Guy's defense okay? It would be disrespectful for the likes of me to worry about that personage. Besides, Hirari is still there. I see, that is true. Certainly, it is unnecessary to worry about Guy who is the strongest in the first place. To Leon who nodded, Misery offered a proposal. By the way, Leon-sama, here is a proposal, would you like to hear it? Alright, what is it? Yes, actually. Misery raised her face and with a sweet smile, she told Leon. Will you fuse as your 6 colored knights with our 6 demon generals using the forbidden secret art? Misery asked such, grew an evil smile suitable for a demon. The place was thrown into a commotion. The 6 demon generals are the archdemons brought along by Misery. It is not to the extent of calling them demon dukes, but Leon was able to perceive that they have power incomparable to the usual archdemons who accept summonings. It could be said, as expected of Guy's subordinates. Perhaps, Leon's top 6 subordinates, as Misery says, the 6 color knights might be equal to them. They were formidable demons, it would be difficult to say which one is superior, the knights or the demons. What is your intention? Leon asked. I will say it honestly. I believe that individuals with power only at the archdemon level won't be very useful in the Great War beyond this point. Misery declared such. All Rose and Co. got angry from her words, which implied that they were useless. However, two of them, Claude and Fran, understood the meaning of Misery's remark. It is true, they are weak. Even Allrose, who is the chief knight, wouldn't be able to compete with just one of Demon Lord Rimura's subordinates after all. That ONI woman called Shin is not even the strongest among Rimura's subordinates. It's certain that she is one of the high-ranking executives, but in reality there's others above her. Claude pacified Allrose and Co., who were enraged. Then, he urged Misery to continue. Returning the favor with a bow, Misery continued explaining. Will this be all right? Hirari and I had awakened as Devil Lords due to Demon Lord Rimura's secret art of evolution. But unfortunately, we can only spread a trifling amount of that gift to our followers. I think that is because of the fact that we couldn't make a soul bond between us. Even though they are individuals close to being independent demons, they are connected to us. Because of this, I expect these ones may not be able to evolve further. Therefore, using the forbidden, secret art, human-demon soul fusion, I want to perform a reset for all of their relationships. I want them to throw away their current bodies and dwell in new bodies. It will fail if it is with a low-ranking individual, but there's a possibility of success if it is with individuals at the Archdemon class. Besides, the success rate jumps up if it's with people at the same level. As for the demerit, one of the consciousness will vanish. As for the merit, a stronger individual will be born from the unification of two beings. They will reincarnate as an existence of Demon Duke class, a class which surpasses the former Demon Lords. Misery finished her explanation loudly. Silence descended on the room. The demons, having consented to it, are waiting calmly. Allrose and the other knight leaders digested the words that had just been spoken and had a discussion. They want power. However, naturally it's not something obtained in one day. If they're not able to impact the fight against the angel army with their current power, it would be better to accept the proposal. However, in the case that their consciousnesses got swallowed up, that'd be more terrible than death itself. Yet, even so. Leon-sama, I wish to accept this proposal. Me too. When Allrose reported such, everyone else agreed simultaneously. Needless to say, Claude and Fran had resolved themselves after hearing Misery's talk. Leon-sama, if by any chance, we lose against the demons, at that time, I ask for your forgiveness. As the representative of the 6 people, Claude told Leon so. Leon closed his eyes and remained silent. Then. I will not tolerate it. All of you must win. You all must acquire the demon's power and then continue serving me. Leon muttered calmly after a brief time passed. Leon's words show that he has accepted Misery's proposal. We swear to meet your expectations. Allrose, Claude, and the other members lowered their heads all at once and swore to Leon. Thus, Misery's proposal was accepted. The ceremony was held. The 6 demon generals and the 6 color knights stood in a row and faced each other. Each of them faced and observed their partner who had similar abilities to themselves. The ones who lose will be swallowed by their partner. Tense expressions appeared on the knights' faces. On the other hand, the demons remained calm. For the demons, they only need to carry out the orders they received. They don't feel any need to become eager whatsoever. And then, the time came. Well then, the secret art, human-demon soul fusion, shall now begin. At the same time Misery that declared such, the demon generals converted their physical bodies into energy. The secret art is possible because the demons are spiritual life forms. And, when the knights confirmed it, it occurred. Misery suddenly cut the cores of the demon generals with a single blow. I have certainly witnessed the resolution of all of you. Now then, please receive it. The gift from Demon Lord Guy Crimson. Please acquire your new power without holding back. Your desire shall become your power. Let us pray that you all can obtain more power. Misery shouted. That's right, everything was planned from the beginning. If they challenged the ritual without fearing the loss of themselves, the demons were ordered to give their power to them. Guy's orders are absolute, nobody defies them. After all, since their evolution had stopped, they understood that there is no other way to obtain further strength than this method. However, In the case that the knights were afraid of obtaining new power, the demons were authorized to take the leadership in the fusion. Wah! What happened? O knights, fear not. We had all agreed to be absorbed by you. As ordered by our great demon lord Guy Crimson. All of you have shown us your determination. Thus we have acknowledged that you all are the suitable entities to be entrusted with our power. That's right, all of you had better be quick, since our cores are already destroyed. There is no time to spare until we are no more, you know. Persuaded by the demons, the surprised knights who had come to a stop, began to move again. They each fused the demons' power with their own. Thus the ceremony finished. They succeeded the ceremony of secret art, human-demon soul fusion, safely without losing anyone. Thus, the 6 knights had obtained the power of Demon Duke class. The preparations on Leon's side finished without a hitch. And, the decisive battle was going to begin soon. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 202, Moderate Clown Troop. Moderate Clown Troop 1. The first day of the Great War. The day ended without anything happening. The Magic City was completely protected from the Angels' attack due to the firm defensive barrier that covers it. Under the command of the Yellow Knight Kizna and the White Knight Maetel, whom had their power increased, the knights successfully poured out all of their power in order to reinforce the city barrier. However, on the second day, the angels who acted without any unity the day before, now began to concentrate their attacks in order to break through the barrier at one point. Even though the knights had strengthened the barrier against it, several angels were able to invade through a small gap. Due to several angels, the direction of the war would tremble greatly. It didn't take much time for the news to be brought to Leon's attention. The knight was greatly alarmed when he came to report. There are only 4 enemies who have penetrated the barrier, but the inside of the castle is in chaos. The knight reported so and returned in order to confront the enemy. However, a scream was immediately heard from the hallway, signifying to Leon that the progress of the war had turned against him. The magic division will blockade the castle. Isolate all of the intruders inside the castle. Don't bring the injured near the castle. The knight leaders are going to face the enemy. Leon urgently issued a blockade of the castle with an isolation barrier and had the knight leaders go face the intruders. He left the maintenance of the city barrier to the Yellow Knight Order and the White Knight Order. He had the spare forces, that is, the Red Knight Order, blockade the castle. The remaining forces were just the Blue Knight Order. Depending on the situation, he needs to decide how he will deploy them. Seeing how the second day suddenly became so hectic, Leon was irritated. Although I thought that we would hold out a bit longer, I see that the enemy is quite strong. Leon left his seat. He is also going to confront the enemy and check out the intruders. However, it seems that would be unnecessary. With a loud sound, the front gate was destroyed. The large door of the audience hall became small pieces and the splinters scattered like dust. And, the intruder magnificently appeared from amidst the dust. Hoo ho ho ho. Nice to meet you, everyone. I am called Footman. One of the moderate clown troupe, Footman the Angry Pierrot am I. Pleased to make your acquaintance. A plump man with an angry clown mask appeared. However, that clown talked in a cheerful tone, creating a strange atmosphere. He seemed to be one of the 4 intruders in the report, but it seems to only be this man named Footman who was able to reach Leon's throne. Is he someone who has great confidence in himself or just a thoughtless fool? You scum, coming to this place on your own, don't think you can leave alive. All rose shouts. Claude, who was guarding Leon, placed his hand on his sword and didn't move. Leon was thinking. This Footman guy, does he intend to defeat me just by himself? If he thinks so, his actions are really underestimating this side too much. Naturally Leon considered that he might have a different objective. Ho ho ho. Are you angry? Maybe you're not getting enough calcium. By the way, do you know what calcium is? Things like this contain a lot of it. Because it's a gift, please don't hesitate to take it. Footman lightly threw something he had dragged along towards Leon and Co. whilst speaking with a full smile on his face. The object burst and scattered in the air and, with a pop sound, white things were scattered near their feet. Leon, Claude, and Alrose understood what it was at a glance. It was the ruined figure of the knight who came to report a while ago. Alrose became more agitated. Claude stopped Alrose, who was going to attack Footman, in silence. Wait, that guy is dangerous. If there's 3 more people like him, the people inside the castle are in danger. Because Fran and the others will be here, you go defend inside the castle. While Claude was still speaking. Ah, you are here after all, Demon Lord Leon. Yufu. As expected, you won't let yourself be killed by anyone besides me, right? One woman interrupted, whilst passing through the broken door and entering the audience hall. She was a beautiful female elf. However, her expression was evil. One of the current 4 fiends of the Heaven Commanders, Cagali, who was the former Demon Lord Kazarim. And, following behind Cagali, 2 more clowns entered as well. Claude and Alrose tensed. It was not because they noticed Cagali's strength. It was simply because they noticed the person who was being carried on the shoulder of a man wearing a teasing face clown mask who had followed her. You bastard! Release Oxytion! Alrose boiled with anger. That's right, what that clown was carrying is their comrade, the Blue Knight Oxytion. Eh? Why? Even though I had killed it with a lot of effort and trouble. Hence, I am going to make this thing my doll. Unfortunately, I won't hear any of y'all's complaints. Teasing face clown. To his arrogant manner, not only Alrose, but Claude too had a red face of anger. Cagali seemed to be amused looking at their expression. And now, don't make them so angry. Let's taste the pleasure slowly. You all, redo the self-introduction from earlier. She said so and laughed happily. Her manner was clearly of a high-ranking person. In fact, the presence that Cagali gave off was stronger and couldn't be compared to before. Leon noticed this and frowned. She is a troublesome opponent. Because even though she knew Leon's strength, she still has time to play around. Is it because the subordinates that she brought are strong? Or, is it because she became stronger that she's overly confident in herself? TCH, how troublesome. I should have killed her back then. He thought such, but it was already too late. Because misery is hidden and, waiting to see the situation, for the time being, Leon thought that she could become insurance in the case of emergency, but Leon couldn't ignore the ominous vibe from Cagali. Leon made up his mind that he needed to take care of his problem at this time, so that there won't be any next time. And, the 3 clowns began their introductions toward Leon. The Fat Clown was the first to open his mouth. Ho ho ho. Although I said it a while ago, I am Footman. One of the moderate clown troupe, Footman the Angry Pierrot am I. Demon Lord Leon. I have a grudge against you because you destroyed Demon Lord Kazarim-sama once before. And, above all, you have also committed the sin of letting my friend Clayman die. I will kill you painfully because I am angry. Saying so, he bent his fat body skillfully and bowed, and then he moved to the side. Following after him was a girl with a teary-eyed clown mask who stepped forward. With a big sickle over her shoulder, she greeted like she was joking. I am Tear. One of the moderate clown troupe, Tear the Teardrop, Teary Eyes Clown. I dislike sad things. Cagali-sama's enemies shall be eliminated by me. Declaring so, she skillfully spun the large sickle in a kind of blade dance. The last one stepped forward, taking over the spot. He was the man with the teasing face clown mask who was carrying the Blue Knight, Oxytion, on his shoulder. Well then everyone. Today seems to be a good day too. My name is Laplace. One of the moderate clown troupe, whom is called Laplace, the Wonder Pierrot, Pleasure Clown. Best regards. Here today, under the order of the Captain Kazarim Danano, right now it's Cagali Anego 3. One of our members that had been sent as a demon lord has gone missing, regrettably for. Even so, that Cagali Anego said she was prepared for a chance for revenge like this. Since we have a crackling grudge to y'all, please take care. Were the words he spoke. On the other hand, Leon asked him. Moderate clown troupe? I don't know it. Oh my? Well, it is a barely existing organization after all. I think you had assisted the person named Clayman, have ya already forgot? He was called Clayman, the crazy Pierrot, he was such a high-spirited chapter. The person who introduced himself as Laplace answered, and gave a disgusting wink. And he grinned like he was making fun of someone and had a smile that mocked other people. However, Leon's eyes had seen through the man called Laplace as someone who you can't be careless with. He has no gaps. Although he was doing relatively useless movements, they were all connected to his next successive move. A master. They were the movements of a person who had reached the deepest level of skill, mastering all movements. Leon felt that, perhaps, he could be even more dangerous than Cagali. And, as the result of him calmly measuring the energy of the enemy, Leon confirmed that the 3 clowns brought by Cagali had all surpassed Demon Lord class. As for Cagali, she's above the average awakened Demon Lord. It seemed that he had been completely outwitted. The angels outside were just decoys. Leon thought that they might be pretending to be the enemy's main force. When Cagali and co invaded inside the city barrier, the angels outside had finished their role. In other words, this means that Cagali has absolute confidence that she can defeat Leon and his subordinates. They're really looking down on us. But, if that's the case, then I ought to teach her her place once again. Leon stood up. Humph. There's no need to remember any of you. After all, you all don't have a future anymore. He announced as such. And then the fight began. From Laplace's rear, the Red Knight Fran, who had approached while suppressing her presence, released her deadly strike. A strike from Laplace's blind spot with a sword clad in flame. Fran swings her sword with full confidence that it was impossible for the enemy to evade the strike. However, surprisingly, Laplace easily evaded it without even turning around. It shouldn't be easy to perceive Fran, who had hid and completely suppressed her presence whilst using magic power interference, even if magic power perception was being used to grasp the surroundings. Whoops, that's dangerous, right? Oh right, if ya leak such angry emotions, even a precious invincible spell would be ruined by that. Laplace spoke such aloof words whilst evading Fran's attack. Fran's ability has been improved greatly. The power of a Demon Duke class, the technique she had trained up until now. And then, magic. She felt it was as if she had reached the peak as a magic swordsman. In fact, it might be said that she has obtained the capability equal to the former Demon Lords. Yet, in front of Laplace, all of her attacks were completely seen through. It's like he is beyond her grasp. Impossible. You can see my attack? She instinctively asked the question. That's right, it's completely visible. The movement of the eyes, the flow of the aura, the fluctuation of the feelings. All are gathered at one point. At least if you don't disperse them, it's like you're telling me where you aim next. Laplace answered, shaking his head as his sign of disappointment whilst looking down on her. Actually, Fran's movements are not a thing that someone can easily read. Laplace pointed out her habits, which she herself would rarely ever realize. But even so, coming from Laplace, he could read Fran's movements clearly, to the extent that he is able to easily grasp them. That's because of the difference in capability. At the same time Fran fought Laplace, Footman also moved. He moved swiftly like he wasn't thinking about his fat body, he moved like he was rolling. And then, when he snapped his fingers, several knights who had attacked him were suspended to the air. Hoo ho ho ho. It's time for some fun fireworks, you know. Footman in high spirits raised a jarring laughter. And then, with snap. He loudly snapped his fingers once more. In an instant, the bodies of the knights in the air began to swell and expand. Hi. Wah, what is this? Stop. Stop this. They bulged and expanded, then. Bam. Like that, all of them exploded. Several knights were at their wits' end as Footman killed them with bombs. Their own bodies swelled up like balloons. Hoo ho ho ho. So few un. The knights understood that numbers wouldn't have any meaning at this point. The elites of the Blue Knight Order that followed behind Fran surrounded the intruders in a circle without approaching the enemy. Claude ground his teeth at the situation. The enemy's force seemed to be stronger than he thought. Among the 4 people, excluding Claude and Alrose, Fran was the one who had the highest fighting power. Yet, she was unable to land even a single hit on the devil called Laplace. And, the knights were useless against that devil called Footman. Claude judged that he and Alrose had no choice but to move. He was worried about Leon, but even if he worried about his master who was far stronger than himself, there would be no point, as there was an even stronger collaborator, Misery. What he had to do now was to support Fran who was his comrade. He renewed his readiness. Leon-sama, I will also make a sortie. Once Claude had confirmed that Leon had given his nod, he began to move in order to help Fran. At the same time Alrose also. Leon-sama, I am also going to go. He shouted and rushed out. The remaining people were only Leon and Cagali, who sweetly smiled. A dismal atmosphere drifted in the air, tension increased between the two people. As for Claude and Alrose who had entered the fray, Claude began supporting Fran, Alrose went towards Footman. And, Tyr was left behind, alone, but two knights stood blocking her. The two were the yellow knight Kizna and the white knight Maetel who came running over in a hurry, entrusting the maintenance of the barrier outside to their subordinates. As each group found their opponent, an intense battle began. The title came from Chiwia, which means the middle way, the middle path, the moderate way, which also reference the 4 books of Confucian, doctrine of the mean. 2 Laplace talk in Kansai Ben entirely. Its counterpart in English could be Southern accent or Australian English. 3 Its female counterpart of Anarchy, which mean boss. For since Clayman had been wrecked by Rimuru in front of all of the demon lords. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 203, Great Demon Lord Kazarim. Great Demon Lord Kazarim. Cagali laughed. She laughed evilly. Everything was going as she had planned. She got her chance to have her revenge on that hateful Leon. And now, that'll be an easy thing to do. The Silver Knight Alrose fought against Footman. After he obtained the power of Demon Duke class, he received strength equaling the Black Knight Claude. He became a half-spiritual life form with high-grade immortality and regenerative power. He also obtained a stronger body. Overwhelming magic power and energy enabled him to use high-ranking magic that he couldn't before. He was even able to activate advanced-level magic without any need for a long chant. He felt his power overflowing and tasted the feeling that he had peered into the world's abyss. And yet, Footman clearly showed that he was taking it easy against Alrose. Footman comically moved his fat body and avoided Alrose's sword strikes with quick movements. And merely by snapping his fingers, his evil power attacked Alrose. Footman's ability is the unique skill the Fat Amplifier 1. The essence of this ability is amplification. With a small energy wave, he's able to amplify a material at will. Thus, the knights who failed to resist were burst open and died after Footman amplified their bodies. Snap. So he snapped his fingers, he was able to turn the sound into a shock wave and send it out. He possesses a fiendish ability which doesn't match his appearance. The one who faced Tyr were the 2 female knight leaders. The yellow knight Kizna and the white knight Muddle. The 2 of them are very compatible. Against Kizna with her prided iron wall defense and Muddle who has a godsend healing ability. There could only be a few people who possess the offensive capability that is able to surpass their combination. On top of that, since they obtained the power of the Demon Duke class, the 2 could brag and didn't think that they could be defeated. Facing them, Tyr laughed eerily. She brandished the large sickle she held in her hand while laughing. Tear the teardrop. That's the name of the Grim Reaper who reaps life. Her favorite food are tears of entreaty. She loves more than anything to see the tears of someone who is asking for mercy too. Tyr possesses the unique skill the Ignorant Optimist 3. Her ideal is just doing what she is told to do without thinking about anything else. Just like her personality, her ability has a condition to activate, that is, all of her abilities will increase only when she receives an order. But for her, that's not a problem. Because Tyr is strong, even without relying on her ability, as she had an unyielding mind which never worried and a strong body from the very beginning. Above all else, it is because there were always reliable comrades who gave her orders. She doesn't worry about anything. Therefore, she gives death to her enemy even more brutally. And, fighting against the last person, Laplace, is the Red Knight Fran and the Black Knight Claude. The Red Knight Fran is strong. Because she has experienced death once already, her energy rose greatly. And, it bloomed by fusing with a demon. The ability she obtained is called Unique Skill Unshaken 1-4. Her mind will not be affected by anything other than the feeling of excitement. A rather mysterious ability that increases her strength if she feels unrest in her mind. The ability that can even turn emotions like anger and fear into power. And now, Fran felt fury towards Laplace, who was carrying the Blue Knight Oxytion, who is her brother, on his shoulder. She changed her intense emotions into gushing power as she glared at Laplace. As the way it was at that moment, her sword wouldn't be able to graze Laplace. She understood that, thus she turned her emotions into energy in order to keep a calm mind. Since Laplace said that he was reading her actions from the waves of her emotions, then she just needed to make everything unperceivable. While facing against Laplace, Fran pushed her ability to a higher level. The Black Knight Claude is the strongest knight among Leon's subordinates. However, he holds no arrogance in his heart. He experienced what the strongest person is like, when he was with Yuuki. The hero Chloe Obeshi is special. As well as the high-ranking people of the Mixed Corps. A lot of other worlders were a part of the Corps, and it could be said that they all own troublesome special abilities. They didn't fight foolishly with just a sword, as they also learned the techniques to fight using all of their available abilities. Fair and square, that is to say, a phrase that is only true when the opponent also stands in the same arena. However, in real combat, justice is only for the one who survives. Understanding that, Claude even studied the way to fight people who are stronger than himself, and thus Claude changed. He became greedier and wanted for more strength. Fusing with the demon was merely an opportunity. In order to gain the power he desires. And the ability that he acquired was Unique Skill Challenger, Battler. The exact power that Claude was hoping for, an ability which specializes in fighting. Claude didn't neglect his training and made the ability blossom. Time was irrelevant, as the power had answered his wish. And at this time, Claude was able to meet an enemy who he could test his ability on. Claude challenged Laplace whilst making a ferocious smile. And then there is Laplace. He is the strongest member of the moderate clown troupe. He possesses fearsome power that could even be called at the level of an extraordinary demon lord. The power to foresee, he can see the future several seconds ahead of time due to his unique skill Seer, Future Vision, 5. And, with his unique skill Deceiver 6, he can unleash phantasmagoric attacks. It is as if he brings something into existence from nothing, a knife flies out from an empty space, whilst actually being a bomb that he disguised as a knife, and it ends before the enemy can understand anything. High physical strength and combat senses. And with his highly versatile offensive ability and perfect future foresight, he can be considered invincible. He introduced himself as the vice captain of the moderate clown troupe, but if compared in fighting strength, Laplace surpasses Kazarim, who's the captain. It can be said that his combat ability is beyond the former demon lord. However, since he disliked the idea of being in a troublesome position, he didn't want to stand at the top. Happily hanging out with his fellow clowns was what made him happy. Kazarim, who had been his captain, severed the ties between the two of them after he rose to be one of the demon lords. The reason was simple, because Laplace would overdo things. Since a temporary agreement had been made, quarrels between demon lords were forbidden. If Kazarim needed to ask Laplace to help him, the situation could easily go downhill. In this way, Laplace was aware that he was not helpful. In addition, it's in his nature that he will become unstoppable by seeing more blood. His nature is the reason why he doesn't have any intention to stand at the top. Therefore, Laplace was kept as the final trump card. And he was able to carry out his goal. He had done it. Bring chaos to the world. It was his dream to raise up an uproar of agonized cries and transform the world to become more chaotic. He is a genuine lunatic. He might become interested in Yuuki if he had the chance to talk with him. He had gained that goal because of a sorrowful event. Clayman, whom he had had a close relationship with, was murdered by Demon Lord Rimuru. Laplace, who hadn't had a goal, obtained the goal of his dead best friend. He acts in order to scatter fear and chaos so to make the world a crazier place. Cagali didn't have any regrets about involving her subordinates of the moderate clown troupe. She decided that she needed their power since this battle was the final and decisive one. If she had sent Laplace at the time when she was still Demon Lord Kazarim, the result may have been different. If she had requested Laplace's help, whose madness and ability were both authentic, she thought that she may have walked a different path by this time. Clayman could still be alive as her right-hand man, so Cagali thought. However, all of those are no more than afterthoughts. At that time, she was a conceited person and had completely underestimated Leon. Even if she regrets it now, she should reflect and keep living, however. The word reflect does not exist in Cagali's dictionary. Because Cagali didn't have any strong fellowship with the others, like Laplace, she didn't feel anything when the weak were eliminated. She only had a small thought that perhaps there was a path like that too. Since she involved her former colleagues in this war, she couldn't do things half-heartedly. Even though her power increased greatly, she was anxious as she had few pawns. Thus, she called her most trusted people and gave them power. She introduced them to Velda and had each of them were given a large quantity of souls. In the process they obtained Demon Lord seeds and awakened. Did Velda use some kind of technique? Since it gave them only the power they wished for, like magic. Currently, each of them had been strengthened to that of awakened Demon Lords. Leon's subordinates, the Knights, seemed to have had their power increased greatly, but of course they were still no match for Cagali and co. It was funny when she thought about it, as the Knights who showed their best resistance were pitiful in her sight. At the same time, joy filled the innermost depths of her heart, she unconsciously broke into a smile. Foolish people! They won't be able to defeat us anyway. Thinking so, Cagali advanced towards Leon whilst basked in a feeling of absolute superiority. Intense battles commenced, and the situation declined quickly. The moderate clown troop were too strong. If the Knights hadn't fused with the demons, they would have been defeated almost instantly. Leon's subordinates, the Knights, were not able to compete at all against the overwhelming strength of the moderate clown troop members who were of the awakened Demon Lord class. Rather, Leon might praise them for the fact that they had not been defeated at this point. The group Cagali brought was terrifying. The situation will only get worse if this continues. Leon analyzed the bad situation and ground his teeth. And, more importantly, Yufu. Leon, you will end here. Your subordinates don't seem reliable either. And yet, you haven't become serious, even in this situation. I have realized your weakness. You are too soft. When I watched your fight against Yuuki-sama, I thought of this. This guy, he's really a softie who can't get serious since he is always protecting his subordinates. You make me laugh. Unlike us, who don't feel anything even if we sacrifice 200,000 angels, you intend to protect 1 million citizens. Did you seriously think that you could win if the two of us fight? No way, you didn't think something immature like the desire to protect something will become power, right? I investigated about how you created this city by gathering the oppressed people and orphans that you picked up. Also, I analyzed your behavior so far. Although you stand out with your villain-like speech and behavior, aren't you actually a nice guy? Yes, I understand. I know that you want to deny it too. However, no matter how you deny it, the fact that you cannot fight all out won't change. After all, your power is too strong, you would destroy this country if you fight seriously. That's right, Cagali's words were true. Leon's ability, Ultimate Skill Purity Lord Metatron, is a wide-ranged type ability suitable for large-scale annihilation. If he went all out, this magical city-state would be destroyed from the inside. And Cagali, who anticipated that the angels would be blockaded on the outside of the barrier, infiltrated with just her group. Against Leon, who can't go all out, she prepared more than enough forces. And now, the situation splendidly became just as how Cagali wished for it to be. Cagali, who was happy, attacked Leon whilst laughing. Attacking as if to torment him, Cagali was having fun cutting off Leon's path of retreat. In order to clear her long-time grudge, Cagali, who had reached the moment of her revenge, felt the greatest delight. Cagali, who fused both the powers of an awakened demon lord and the power of a seraphim-class angel, became a genuine monster. Even so, it didn't affect her desire to see Leon cornered and play with him to the end. And thus, she succeeded. Hey, how are you feeling now? I wonder what you feel at this point now that you've been cornered by the person whom you looked down upon. The God-class one-handed sword that Cagali held cut into Leon's gold circle. Although he was barely able to deal with all of her attacks, Leon was gradually being overwhelmed by the difference in strength. Although he thrust out his flame pillar, Cagali warded off the attack perfectly. Shut your trap. There's no need for me to get serious against someone like you. Leon answered without getting agitated. The odds were against him. Which was exactly why it was not the time to panic. Leon is someone who had awakened as a hero. He was certain that with just his basic fighting power he was capable of defeating Cagali without relying on his ability. However, that was a story from long ago. At this point Cagali had become a spiritual life form. Which means, although her appearance was an elf, her essence was something completely different. Cagali Demon Lord Kazarim was originally a long-range support-type devil who excelled at rear support. Manipulating his pawns, he would skillfully achieve his goal. Hence, she knew well that she wasn't strong enough to fight at the front herself. Besides, if it was with her original Demon Lord body, she could fight at an ordinary devil's level, but her physical elf body wasn't suitable for fighting. She realized that when she was defeated by Damrata. That was why, she reconstructed her body. She completely dominated her body with ultimate skill Dominion Lord Melchizedek. The current Cagali has the physical ability to be able to fight against Leon equally, and supporting her is Dominion Lord Melchizedek, which provides her with high battle senses. Thus, Leon's attack didn't reach Cagali, instead Cagali grew each time they clashed as she absorbed Leon's fighting style. For Leon, he was in a very bad situation. Though Leon was speaking as if he still had composure to spare, but he immediately realized that the situation was indeed abnormal. On the other hand, just like what Cagali had said, the situation did not permit him to go all out. Impatience rose in Leon since he had underestimated his opponent too much. At that moment, one of Cagali's sword strikes finally grazed Leon's flank lightly. Leon received a small cut due to the tip of Cagali's sword entering a gap of his armor. Cagali, who saw that, smiled complacently as she laughed evilly. Yufu. Oh my. Leon, even for someone like you, are you finally unable to handle my sword? My movement will become even faster, you know. I wonder if you will be alright with that? If you cry and apologize to me whilst prostrating on the ground and swear your allegiance to me, I will spare your life, you know. Fu. Shut up, I don't need to lower my head to the likes of you. Oh dear, I thought that you would say that. Well then. So, she stopped talking for a moment, and deepened her evil smile. And then. I'll make your beautiful face soggy with tears and covered with remorse. I'll strip you bare, cut off your limbs, turning you into a Daruma doll, and then I'll attach a collar on your neck and parade you around in front of the citizens whom you protected. Gyahahahahahaha. It will be fun to see the despair on their faces once they see your miserable and unsightly self. Even if they cry and beg for mercy, I won't spare them. I'll slaughter them one by one in front of you, and at the end, turn them into dog food. She declared those words and laughed loudly. Ho 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 ho. Wonderful. As expected from Captain Footman. Yes, so fun. I also like it. Tear. Indeed, I didn't have that idea. I didn't even think of that, what a brutal act. Laplace. Hearing Cagali's remark, all members of the moderate clown troupe praised her highly in excitement. Even Leon frowned when he imagined it. He thought that even a lowlife had a limit. Cagali smiled and grinned. Yufu. It's okay, Leon. Even if you destroy this country because you hate the idea of exposing your unsightly figure. If you get serious, I too, am willing to be fair and square and fight with you seriously, you know. She provoked Leon with a sneer which was like saying, you won't be able to do it. Even if Leon chose to do it, it was not a problem for Cagali either. At that time, she would beat Leon from the front and show off her strength. Now, Cagali didn't sense any threat from Leon since she felt she had become strong. If she could break Leon's high pride, she didn't care what sort of means she needed to take. Leon saw that it wasn't a bluff from Cagali's expression. If that was the case, Cagali could actually be equal to him or perhaps even stronger than him. In any case, it would be difficult to put an end to this without casualties from the citizens with the way the things were going now. Leon-sama, please don't mind us. Against fiends like them, you mustn't let them escape. All Rose and Claude advised Leon together. They were in their own desperate situations, however they didn't remain silent when Leon was made a fool of. That's right. If he was defeated, the people in his country wouldn't remain safe after all. Forgive me, I will certainly kill this fiend. Leon steeled himself. Either way, as long as he didn't defeat these fiends, his citizens' safety couldn't be guaranteed. Then he would do the only thing he could. Thinking so, he was going to release his powerful power. Please wait, Leon-sama. You do not need to worry, I have isolated this castle from the city. A clear woman's voice made him regain his senses. A devil lord named Misery. Also, the woman who was working together with Leon now. With Misery's ability, the castle was completely separated from the outside world. Observing the situation, Misery prioritized to take the most optimum action depending on the situation. Thanks to her, the situation would change once again. Kaguli unpleasantly knitted her brows due to Misery's appearance. Ah? Aren't you guys follower? You were able to act on your own will, heh? I certainly thought that you could only move by Guy's order. It's been a long time, Kazarim-sama. I certainly thought that you had died on some plane, but that stubbornness of yours is the same as before. Phew, phew. Nice speech, for a small fry who only hides in Guy's shadow. You want to try me? Well anyway, it's this side's victory to buy some time. Because I had asked Demon Lord Remuru's aid, the reinforcements will come soon. Huh? Demon Lord Remuru's aid you say? Kukyuku, yufu, uhahahaha. Kaguli burst into laughter due to Misery's words. It became a very loud laughter as Kaguli's subordinates also joined in. What is so funny? Misery asked her as she felt that it was strange. Yufu. Demon Lord Remuru has died, you fool. That annoying Demon Lord is already gone. About this time, Remuru's subordinates must be in the midst of pandemonium. Whether due to an unsightly internal discord. Or are they splitting and naming themselves as the new Demon Lord? Either way, this matter won't be settled quickly. Of course, they won't be able to be reinforcements. Do you understand? As one might expect, Leon and Misery changed their expressions since Kaguli said it triumphantly. It was too unexpected. For that absurd Demon Lord Remuru to be the one who lost first, that wasn't a story that they could believe so easily. But, they didn't feel Kaguli was telling a lie going from her looks. Impossible? That stubborn Demon Lord wouldn't die so easily. Remuru-sama, who was recognized by Guy-sama, that is impossible. Kaguli, who was filled with a sense of superiority due to the two's reactions, answered them. Yufu. Oh well, it may be good to taste your despair. This great war, our victory is already set in stone. If you want to know why. It's because Demon Lord Milim is the one who destroyed Demon Lord Remuru. Do you understand what this means? The strongest beings, that is Demon Lord Guy Crimson and Demon Lord Milim Nava. As well as that annoying Demon Lord Remuru. Among those three, Demon Lord Milim Nava is under Veldasama's control. And, Demon Lord Remuru is dead. The remaining one that we need to be cautious of is Demon Lord Guy Crimson alone. And even that guy will face the strongest hero. And Yufu. So, can you understand with this, right? Misery, you will die in this place without being able to see Guy in his last moments. It shocked Misery. And even Leon. To those two. Well, let us begin then. Leon can go all out if this place is separated from the outside world. In that case I shall fight seriously as well. And, the two of you shall know despair. Saying so, Kaguli no, Kazarim's body changed. From the beautiful elf's body into her optimized original Demon Lord Kazarim's body. And then, with his gushing tremendous power he gripped Misery and threw her to the ground. For Kazarim, it was a simple warm-up. Misery, who reacted late, received the attack directly. Due to the collision with the tremendous energy, it seems she received some damage. The close combat ability obviously also increased. If he was careless, it was clear that Leon would experience the same thing as Misery. But Leon had a smile on his lips. "Don't be conceited, Cagali. No, Kazarim. I will bury you once again like before." Leon responded such. If it's in an isolated space, Leon can also fight seriously. Misery also had enough spare power, as she calmly took a stance. Thus, in the castle that was completely separated from the outside world, the battle between Kazarim and Leon and Misery began. Leon decided that after he finishes this battle, he would check the authenticity of the story about Demon Lord Rimura's death and switched over his thoughts. Misery too, as she thought that it was disrespectful for someone of her standing to be worried about her master, Demon Lord Guy Crimson, she concentrated her focus on the enemy in front of her. Either way, whether that story was the truth or a lie, Kazarim was the enemy they needed to kill. And so the two people discarded their pride in front of the despairing difference of power. The awakened Kazarim introduced himself as a great demon lord. And he proved the power suitable to that title. The two came at him together, yet they couldn't defeat Kazarim. One of the four fiends of the Heaven Commanders, Kazarim, had mastered his ability and cornered Leon and co. Then, as the fight became more intense, the second day of the Great War passed on. 1. Zufukusha equals the one who amplify/magnify. Futurumano equals the person who makes things fatter. 2. Which means she is a super S. 3. Rakutenka equals optimist. Muchinarumano equals ignorant person. 4. Mujiao equals mutable sha equals person/er. Uraganumano equals unshaken able person. 5. Myra Ishi equals future vision, Mirumano equals the one who sees. 6. Sajishi equals cheater, swindler, Azamukumano equals deceiver. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 204, The Confused World. The Confused World. Day 3 of the Great War, in the holy city of Rubrios. She eyed the incoming Dagruel forces, and a cold, dark smile surfaced on her face. As she thought that the chance has finally come, for her to let loose all the frenzied furious anger that was within her. On the first day of the Great War, Shin along with Adelman and Albert were ordered by their master Demon Lord Rimuru, to move out to aid Demon Lord Ruminus. Having visited when he was working with Gerudo in setting up the transit gates, Adaman guided their forces to Ruminus Castle. Upon reaching, the atmosphere at the castle was unnaturally calm despite the fact that they were in battle with the angels. Ruminus was elegantly relaxing, as she lounged on her couch. And, towards Shin and the other guests. To think I would get reinforcements against that measly angel army, that Rimuru is quite the worrywart. Sure, the humans would be in danger should we fall here. But isn't this a little too overprotective? Not even I expected something like this to happen so soon. She calmly and matter-of-factly addressed. But Rimuru-sama has predicted that there would be an incoming attack here, from Demon Lord Dagruel who has betrayed us. She froze upon hearing Shin's reply. Ruminus was confident that her forces can maintain their advantage against the angel army, but if Dagruel's forces were to come into play, that changes everything. More so, the fact that Dagruel, one of the oldest pillars among the demon lords, has made his move. This isn't a situation that can be taken lightly anymore. Gather the others immediately. We're holding a strategy conference right away. With Rumina's command, her followers, the 7 great nobles and ranking commanders, gave orders for the other key appointment holders to gather. Right on the dot of nightfall, it was fortunate that the angels began to pull out. Thanks to that, the other officers who were taking part in battles are now able to attend the conference. Not wasting time, they gathered at the conference hall where a light dinner was prepared. Representing them, were the 7 great nobles, the 7 celestial sages, and the holy knight Arnud. The second-in-commands, knight squad leaders, along with any noteworthy Majin who were nobles were amongst them. Seeing that all who were relevant has arrived, Ruminus gave a short opening address, and declared the start of the conference. And so, the meet begins. Shin spoke first, speaking of Rimuru's predictions. then the movements of the angel armies, and the situations of the other areas. Finally, finishing with Dagruel's movements, and what was predicted to be their goal. No way. If Demon Lord Dagruel is making his move, we are going to end up getting pincered from both the skies and on land. As we have nothing to fall back upon, if we fall here the central countries will definitely fall shortly after. The alarmed Arnud anxiously spoke out. To him, who is one of the linchpins in the human defense forces, their current location can pretty much be called the final defense line. In comparison, the monster, Rumina's/Magin, side wasn't as disturbed. At worst, the choice of forsaking this country and escaping is still a viable option for them. Just like they have did once in the past, when this country was destroyed by Feldera. For they believe that there will still be somewhere out in the vast lands of this world that would accept them. But, that doesn't apply for all of them. The higher beings are all thinking about something, with a face that looked like they were chewing something bitter. Rumina's was, too. To protect the believers, who are citizens of the country, while simultaneously probing for a possible location for a new country, was what the nobles were suggesting. Rumina's was still thinking on the sidelines, while watching Arnud debate. It's simple to abandon the country. For a monster such as herself, it's not too much effort to build another country from scratch. But, if she were to flee, there's no guarantee the angels aren't going to pursue her. Chances are, they will give chase. The opposition has every intent on wiping out all intelligent beings, having declared their intentions to destroy the world. It's hard to imagine them letting Rumina's and co get away. Additionally, the odds of victory for them doing a full-scale tactical retreat while protecting non-combatants is pretty much non-existent. Silence. Which is why, with this single cold word from Rumina's, silence returned to the room. To me, whatever happens to the humans, is really none of my concern. They'll replenish their numbers shortly anyway, it's probably not much of a problem if their numbers are reduced somewhat, these are my honest thoughts. That's if they manage to replenish, that is. As the enemy has declared their intention to wipe out everything, there are no guarantees that humans will be allowed to survive. For that reason, I have decided to protect this land. This is by no means something done for the sake of the humans. Some of you are saying we should escape, but when it ends up with us alone against the angel forces, do you think we will be able to win? I mean, think about it. The other demon lords too, are fighting to protect their citizens and territory. That is something that can be called a contract, but at the same time it is also the obligation of we who rule over these lands. Guy is an exception. Ramaris, Milim, Leon, and even the newcomer Rimuru are doing their utmost. I too have such intentions. This is us demon lords putting our pride on the line, turning our backs to the angels is unthinkable. The newcomer Rimuru has noticed Demon Lord Dagruel's betrayal and has sent reinforcements already. Instead, if we were to escape, it would be foolish to think we could ever live proudly again after that. We are not living for the sake of living. It is because we live proudly, that we live as nobles, as kings. Escape will not be forgiven. Prioritize our victory, and start thinking of how we will achieve it. Let victory be ours. God, she sure talked a lot. Let victory be ours. The conference room was wrapped on a silent fervor, and showed the unity of all present in an instant. Now that Rumina's intentions are made known to them, the monster followers very easily made up their minds and mentally prepared their resolves. Rumina's charisma as a demon lord was not just for show. She splendidly grasped the hearts of her followers. And, without that fervor cooling down, the conference shifted to the discussion on their plan to engage the incoming attack. In the end, it was decided to leave the bare minimum to defend against the angels, while redirecting everything else they had to face Dagruel. Luckily there wasn't any noteworthy commander among the angels, which is also why they didn't have any tough battles for the day. Nevertheless, there were crack troops being reorganized as reserves, so as to not be complacent in light of that. As they have no choice but to engage on two fronts, it was decided for the reserves to assist whichever side that has the most trouble. This reserve squad now bears a heavy responsibility, having been given the important task of making the proper decision. Due to the shortage of reserve forces in the current situation, most reinforcements can't be relied on. All the other demon lords have their hands full holding their own territory. Rumina's forces are in a more positive situation now, having received reinforcements from Demon Lord Rimuru. If they were to be pincered by their foes from both land and the skies without Demon Lord Rimuru's aid, they would have been destroyed without the chance to even contemplate escaping. Due to Demon Lord Rimuru's quick assessment of the situation, the aid and information sent to Rumina's has pretty much saved her. Famu. Guess I owe him one, huh? On the inside, Rumina's was reluctantly accepting this fact. Tien, still Sotsensen lol. And so, the location of their final battle is decided, for Rumina's forces which occupy the holy city of Rubrios. Against the angel forces would be Arnud and his holy knight forces, plus the bloody knights who are led by the nobles. The 7 great nobles, the ones known as the celestial sages, would be their assault force. Against the traitor Dagruel, would be Shin and her personal guard forces. In addition, are Adalman and the death knights he leads. Over the night, using his summoning magic, Adalman brought forth his followers from the labyrinth. It's not like he could summon everything he could muster up in one night, but having took on the task, he could manage to bring over a substantial force over if he had 2 days. Dagruel and his forces were also traveling at abnormal speeds without stopping to even sleep. It was calculated that they would cross the deserts and invade these lands in 3 days' time. With that being the scenario, they will make it in time to prepare their defenses. Making use of the transit gates that were set up, Shin's personal guard were also gathering up. Of course, as they had priority on the usage, Dagruel's forces couldn't make use of the gates on their side. Shin was giving orders to her forces to be on their guard, as they made their preparations for their upcoming battle with Dagruel's forces. If things go smoothly, the decisive battle will take place on the 3rd day of the Great War. With the plan in motion, the move to deal as much damage as they could to the Angel Army on day 2, was decided during the conference in the first night. According to reports from their scout squads, the movements of Dagruel's forces were spotted as per the predicted timeline. Showing their differences when compared to the human forces, Dagruel's forces move non-stop without a care for food or rest, maintaining their threatening speed. But, as they moved at a constant pace, their time of arrival was accurately predicted. Inversely, that also means the scouts held an important responsibility, as they are required to be able to keep up if there were any increases in movement speed. For that purpose, Rumina's had the celestial sages take the job. The reasoning for that was that they were highly skilled in plotting and gathering information. They are able to keep an eye on Dagruel's forces without being noticed. Also, they had teleportation-type abilities, so on the off chance that they were to be spotted they would still be able to escape and return to base. The plan was for the celestial sages to switch over to their assault troop role the moment Dagruel's forces enter their territory. With that decided, on the 2nd day, everyone but the celestial sages were to be combating the angel army. With the plan going well, they managed to greatly reduce the numbers of the angel army, which was using the same monotonous attack as the first day. But, something unexpected happened as well. During the afternoon of the 2nd day, Velda made another appearance, towards the entire world. Allow me to enlighten everyone on the current situation. My beloved Dogther Demon Lord Milim, has destroyed a pillar of the Demon Lords. That's right, the one who perished was Demon Lord Rimuru. Though he was a newbie, he was the Demon Lord who had the closest ties to the humans. 2 other pillars among the Demon Lords are old friends of mine, and have shown that they were willing to follow my lead. The number of Demon Lords who are still against me, is but a measly 4 pillars now. You are welcome to resist to the end, but for those who give up, they shall be granted a swift painless death. So instead of wallowing in fear and despair, wouldn't it be better to just choose death? The hammer of God shall be brought down on the 7th day, on every existing human capital. Until then, you have my word that I shall intervene no further. Do you understand the meaning of what I just said? The ones who want to die without suffering, just stay put in the capitals instead of running or hiding. As I am such a merciful being, I shall definitely keep this promise. Working the same way as when he did his declaration of war, a massive vision of Velda appeared in the skies and delivered his speech. Shocks were sent throughout the world. To the many capital cities of the Ingratia kingdom around the world, and to the capital of the empire in the east. Many panicked and began their escape, while there was also the extreme minority that has accepted the end and decided to stay. Now that the situation has been made known to every living being, the world was now swept up in a swirl of chaos. The many leaders are too stumped with the problems that the chaos is causing. Having declared dropping the hammer of God on the seventh day, that also meant that the capitals around the world are safe zones until then. There was no reason for him to lie at this point. If Velda was in the mood, he could have dropped the hammer without saying anything. Him not doing so and instead stating a deadline, was perhaps to show that he really was as merciful as he made himself sound. But Velda's true motive was probably that he found searching for loose ends to be too much of a chore. But then, even for those who noticed that, it's still a good and efficient choice to make use of the capitals as safe zones. In any case, to guarantee the safety of their citizens, gathering in the capitals was a no-brainer. Inversely, it is also a double-edged sword, as one wrong move and everything crumbles in one go. It was a bad gamble of sorts. If the demon lords emerge victorious, their safety is assured and the remaining problems would clear out in time. However, if they are defeated, escape will be impossible at that point. Then again, even if they are to escape from the capitals and spread out to the many corners of the world, the number of beings who are capable of surviving being constantly on the run is very limited. Anyways, the fate of being found by meticulous trackers and then finally killed was very clear. In fact, there are countries which are sending their defense forces against the sweeping angel squads that have appeared throughout the lands. There are already many uncounted casualties. Before the start of the Great War, Demon Lord Rimuru and the other demon lords have had talks, and the fact that the demon lords themselves are taking part in the war was known. Demon Lord Ruminus took part in those talks, and it was decided that she and Demon Lord Rimuru were to take full charge of the defenses on the Western Front. Which brings us back to the current situation, where the civilian populace needs to depend on the power of the demon lords, to protect them from Velda who intends to destroy the world. That finally brings us back to the point, as that is the problem that human leaders around the world are getting headaches for. To them, their symbolic defender, and also the symbol of fear, is Demon Lord Rimuru. As they have experienced, what kind of death that immensely powerful being is capable of unleashing. To the world leaders, the defeat of said demon lord directly leads to the destruction of mankind. What this means, is that the news of the defeat of Demon Lord Rimuru brought unreal amounts of despair for them. The fact that Demon Lord Rimuru disappearing this fast, was something that didn't cross any of their minds. Even if he was defeated, pulling through no matter how many times he had to do it, was the image of Demon Lord Rimuru that they, the world leaders, held. But that only amplified the despair that they felt. If the news of Demon Lord Rimuru's defeat wasn't made known, the capitals would still believe that the demon lords can emerge victorious. That was the unfiltered thought process of the world leaders, in the current situation. The reaction of the countries after hearing this information, was split into two opposing directions. The ones who still believe the demon lords will be victorious, even after knowing that Demon Lord Rimuru has been defeated, and the ones who have decided to do whatever they want, with the assumption that the demon lords will be defeated. For those who still believe in the demon lords' victory, they would be safest to stay in the capitals which have been declared to be safe from attack. In the end, most of the Western country leaders and the Empire's important figures, are part of the side which believe in the demon lords. Whatever happens, running around like a headless chicken won't get them far. If that's the case, staying away from the fighting and hoping for the best is still more ideal for them. Moreover, for the beings who have closer ties to Demon Lord Rimuru, they find it hard to seriously believe that he really was defeated. This was the greatest reason why they, the human world leaders, have yet to lose faith. To quote the words of a certain first-generation committee leader. What bullshit is that? There's no way that fella would die this easily. If he was such an easy opponent, he would have been destroyed by me a long time ago. End quote. The thoughts of many of the beings which had closer ties to said demon lord, were more or less similar. Cunning and cautious, a bold demon lord who never fully shows his hand. There's no way such a demon lord would so honestly let himself be destroyed. And other such stuff. Which meant, they were the ones who never believed that he would be one of the first to be defeated. With the thought that he's most likely planning something, the ones who thought this way end up pulling up the weaker-willed ones along with them. This trend was stronger for the ones who had closer ties to Demon Lord Rimuru. It is said that the king of the newly born country Falmanaz and some of the surrounding countries managed to easily protect their citizens and provide relief. They helped the stragglers in the vicinity and accommodated villagers from the many small villages which surrounded their country into their capital, displaying just how thorough they were. Ha! There's no way the master would die that simply. That Velda fella looks like he's all talk, getting duped that easily. I know, right? He's oh so underestimating that person, like I had in the past. Looks like he's fully unaware of the ploy that's right under his nose. Such was the recorded talks between the young king and his aged advisor. These are some of the people who have close ties with Demon Lord Rimuru, and they placed great faith in him. They were the best representatives of the beings who had absolute faith in the Demon Lord's victory. This trend was seen in many of the countries that surrounded the Great Jura Forest. The Dwarf Kingdom, the country of Burmand and Sorcerer's dynasty Sarian count among these countries. And the leaders of said countries reacted quickly to the news. They issued a conference call for all the other Demon Lord believers, and succeeded in tipping the scales of the minds of the other world leaders. More than half of the Western countries tipped in favor, and chose to believe in the Demon Lord's victory. Even the Empire, which has only recently tried to invade the Great Jura Forest, showed their fealty to the Demon Lord's side. The perfect post-war therapy by Demon Lord Rimuru during the period of turmoil after the Emperor's death gave them the extra push that was needed. The almost religiously fanatical explanations of the soldiers who returned to their surprised families probably contributed much. The returnee soldiers spoke in unison. Defeat is impossible, for Demon Lord Rimuru-sama. They said as such. The soldiers elaborated proudly, even though they were the ones who returned with disgraceful results from an overwhelming defeat. Because of how unnaturally absurd it was, it inversely caused the Empire citizens to believe the soldiers. Although large-scale confusions did happen, the swift response from the remaining Empire leaders suppressed the civilian unrest within a few days of the occurrence. This would be recorded as a miracle during the Great War, and talked about by future generations. But problems arose from the other side. A certain minimum number of the people, who are doing whatever they want on the assumption of the Demon Lord's defeat, exist everywhere around the world. Sadly, most countries had to split some of their defense force, to keep these miscreants in check. If this was also part of Velda's aims, it couldn't be helped that there will be some fools who end up falling for his ploy. These people only think of themselves, which causes them to make bad choices, even if it was during such dire times. The world was currently falling into despair, as per Velda's intentions. From it, confusion was born. With that, one of his objectives was accomplished. One of Demon Lord Rimuru's followers, Warlord Shin. She worshipped Demon Lord Rimuru as though a god. So when she heard Velda's speech about his death, all she could feel was a blinding rage. That rage was about to awaken a certain unstable emotion that was supposed to have been sealed deep within her heart. And that was about to whip up a turbulent storm upon the impending battlefield. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 205, vs Dagruel Part 1. vs Dagruel Part 1. Dagruel's army had reached the Holy Kingdom Rubrios and kept on their march through its border. And they mowed down all of the people who blocked their path and aimed at the holy capital with great vigor. The holy capital was protected by a threefold barrier. The large-scale magic essence warding barrier blockaded the city's outskirts. It was a barrier which obstructed the accumulation of magic essence to prevent outbreaks of monsters. However, it is naturally not invincible. Just like in the present situation, there may be an outbreak of rare monsters due to the barrier's destruction that might come to invade the city. To prevent this invasion, an anti-monster defense barrier had been installed, which protected the daily lives of the holy capital and its surroundings. As its name suggests, it was intended to prevent the invasion of monsters. It was a barrier with a strong magic essence isolation ability, but it only had influence on a certain level of monster and weaker. It didn't affect vampires, its true masters. Its purpose was to protect the citizens of the holy capital from field monsters. The holy knights usually patrolled between the first and the second barriers. and their work included searching for tears in the barrier and restoring them. It was common knowledge that the Holy Kingdom Rubrios was protected by a twofold barrier, but the existence of the third one was only known by the high-ranking people of the Holy Capital. The Evil Purification Barrier. It was the protection barrier of the highest level that had protected the sacred Holy Capital for a long time. It was a barrier that could be called the perfected version of the Holy Field, the barrier which attacks monsters with the only exception of those registered with an identification code. Everything inside the ramparts of the Holy Capital was within the scope of its influence. It was the largest scale barrier of its level, but it still couldn't cover the entire range. Even so, it was the strongest barrier, worthy to protect the Holy Capital. The transfer gate was established within the anti-monster invasion prevention barrier and outside the evil purification barrier. The reason was because Ruminas didn't want the subordinates of the other demon lords acting freely within the Holy Capital. That was a reasonable argument, because not only it was troublesome to set and register identification codes for individuals, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't be hostile by next time. Therefore, the evil purification barrier was applied to every monster with the only exception being Rumina's subordinates. The effect was applied even to the high-ranking monsters in Shin's entourage. Thus, Shin's elite corps who arrived from the transfer gate organized themselves at the peripheral of the living area without entering the Holy Capital. The battlefield was outside the anti-monster invasion prevention barrier. It was the decision of the conference the night before. The barrier was ineffective against the angel army, or rather, the anti-monster has no meaning against the holy attributed angels. The monster army led by Shin and Co were suitable to oppose Dagruel. The ironic thing is that the immortal legion led by Alderman, which could be considered evil itself, didn't receive the effect due to holy demonic inversion. However, it would be a problem if undead came and went within the Holy Capital like they owned the place, so that's one of the reasons why Alderman was assigned to the interception forces. Tempest's group will engage Dagruel, Ruminas's group will suppress the angels. That is the plan. Immediately sensing that Dagruel's army had destroyed the large-scale magic essence warding barrier that had stretched around the border, Shin notified the entire army. As preparations were everything, Shin had finished stationing her elite corps. The Immortal Legion which Adalman had summoned stood at the front in perfect order, with 2,000 Death Knights as the main force. The rest of the Legion's composition was as following: 100,000 Zombie Soldiers, Carrion Soldiers, 20,000 Pawn Soldiers, Skeleton Soldiers, 10,000 Pawn Archers, Skeleton Archers, 10,000 Pawn Knights, Skeleton Knights. There were such overwhelming numbers. They were an army that had been created by Alderman by using the corpses gathered from Great Jura Forest. They usually wandered around the floors of the labyrinth, but they all sorted this time. The 100,000 zombie soldiers are the monsters prepared urgently for this war. Most of them were once the soldiers of the Empire. Deployed inside the labyrinth, the ones which had their rotten flesh neatly removed were the pawn soldiers. Among them there might be those which were once adventurers who had died inside without buying a bracelet, but this was a rare example. In preparation for this great war, they had gathered the corpses which had been vacated by their souls. It was quite a large number. As there was a possibility that they might evolve into a higher rank being if they are able to survive this great war, they excitedly decided to participate in the war. Thanks to that, the total number was a little less than 150,000. Under Adalman's rule, they received an ability increase effect. Furthermore, due to holy demonic inversion, they wouldn't be affected by the effects of the barrier's magic essence isolation. Unlike inside the labyrinth, they cannot revive if destroyed. However, they won't be purified by undead purification, turn undead. They became such a dreadful existence, because as undead that had turned into holy attributed beings, they won't be affected by holy magic. And because they couldn't die from normal attacks either, the only way to stop their movement is to completely destroy them. And then, Shin's elite corps. 10,000 Terror Knights. Like the Death Knights, their strength was equivalent to a dash rank. And after the previous battle with the Empire, they had grown stronger. The true main force this time was Shin's elite corps. The only problem was that the commanders of the elite corps were the sons of the enemy leader, Demon Lord Dagruel. Shin believed that Dagruel's sons would not betray her since they had sworn loyalty to her lord, Rimuru. However, even without betrayal, whether or not they could fight was another story. Hey you guys. The enemies are your relatives, can you guys fight them? Shin summoned the three and asked them directly. And the three brothers responded as if it were natural. Of course, Nei-san. Whether it's our old man, or uncle, we will defeat them. Yeah. We will show our seriousness. Phew phew phew. My stomach is growling. His stomach is growling, 1. For an instant, Shin thought, what is this guy talking about? However she splendidly ignored it. Oh well, since he's fat, it couldn't be helped that it would growl. However, Shin never thought that it would ever manifest in a form of motivation. However, it was troublesome for her to tsukumai it. It will be alright if the people in question are okay. The problem might actually be their uncle. Dagruel has a younger brother. Yes. It seems our old man has two. One of them is our old man's aide, but I've never met the other one. They said that he's a dangerous person, so it seems he had to be sealed because of that, right? Oh well, it will be easy peasy if you entrust the task to us. When the third son Deborah said so, for some reason Shin became uneasy. Oh well, they are her cute subordinates who had become strong enough to equal the former demon lord standard. She decided to believe in them, and she succeeded in pushing away her uneasiness. To such a Shin. However, for such an upright person as Dagruel Dono to turn out to be a traitor. It was something hard to believe. Adalman said so while letting out a sigh. When he was installing the transfer magic formation, Dagruel was quite cooperative, and he got along well with Adalman, who also had an upright character. Therefore, Adalman felt that it was simply too unbelievable. Oh well, it seems he was acquainted with the person who calls himself Velda, so he might have some kind of old ties with him. Shin concluded so. No matter what was said, holding back against him was unnecessary, as he was an enemy. After all, Shin would not forgive that Velda scum who had babbled such nonsense like destroying her dearest master Rimuru. If Dagruel is assisting that person, that would be the same as telling Shin you'd like to die, huh? If it were the old Shin, she would have gone ahead and attacked by herself and struck him with all her might. Phew. If you think about it, I have also become well-rounded. Shin sprouted a smile, she was satisfied with the growth of her heart. Shin-sama isn't round at all too. Because Deborah shouted in surprise, Shin struck his stomach with her hand like she was going to gouge his stomach. It was the so-called corkscrew punch. You shit for brains, I'll kill you. So, she spat those words at Deborah, the third son, who crouched down on the ground. Deborah was someone that no matter how much he ate, the nutrients just went to his sides and never did reach his brain. He was the number one fool among the trio. This reward is. Deborah had a joyful smile on his face for some reason and then fainted. His two older brothers who saw this envied him, the other two brothers are fools as well. Shin imagined a cold sweat going down her back. What a frightening bunch, she thought. Gradually she has begun to not need to hold back against them. If only assessed from durability, the three brothers would rank first place without a doubt. In this world, there are really frightening people. In various meanings 3. Whilst Shin was thinking about this, she immediately turned her attention and glared at the approaching troops of Dagruel to her front. With a simple magic power perception, she investigated Dagruel's army. She perceived some people with large amounts of energy. However, only a few of them were worth watching out for. If it's with her current power, enemies that she should be cautious to that extent did not exist. However, that's assuming that the results of the magic power perception were accurate. At least the demon lord Dagruel seems to be a martial artist who had had a 1vs1 battle against Feldera in the past. Shin's perception hadn't perceived anyone who had such huge power amongst the troops. That reminded her. Suddenly Shin remembered it. That Feldera and Dagruel had talked about training to suppress their magic power. No, it can't be. It's not something that can be so easily attained. I want to think that. However, she felt that it was possible when she thought about the growth speeds of Dagruel's sons and their foolish tenacity. I'll think about it when the time comes, thus Shin made up her mind after she gave up thinking about it. Dagruel's army had shown its perfect appearance. Chain of Restraint Titan Army, total number 100.000. Shin's army was advantageous in number. Yet it might be inferior in terms of quality. There were giant ogres and cyclops. Even big shots like some hecatonkires, 4 of the Titan races. Various types of giants were approaching in crowds. In Shin's honest impression, no matter how many bones there are, it wouldn't matter, right, or so she thought. Oh dear, what a magnificent view. This may be a bit harsh for my cute skeletons. A bit. Somewhat, it's a bit tough, but they should manage somehow or another. Ho. Do you have a plan? I can't say it's a plan, but Albert's command abilities are quite good. In addition, please look at them properly. The equipment of the pawn soldiers are complete. Shin noticed it as Alderman said it to her. Needless to say about the Death Knights, the pawn soldiers were equipped with leather armor. It was the best quality goods with the Tempest mark and made in the dwarf's workshop. The pawn knights were, surprisingly, only equipped with simple breastplates. They seemed to be stingily made with demon steel exclusively for the skeletons to use, but the performance was guaranteed. Judging from the dull light they're emitting, they might be charged magic items. As one might expect, the zombie soldiers received cheap makeshift equipment. Hey! Aren't you overdoing things? How did you obtain that amount of demon steel? What? It was an easy matter. From various sources, like the melted cheap equipment from adventurers, or iron ores I procured via Arno. Oh yes, from every one of the Imperial soldier before, it was a joyous thing for there were so many people who had quite good equipment. However, the most delicious was the iron golem subjugation though. Shin understood Adalman's explanation, whom had been speaking in a cheerful voice. He was not just playing inside the labyrinth, it seemed that he was also steadily collecting materials. Among the monsters included in the golem group which sometimes appears, iron golems contain an abundance of iron. Whenever such a monster was defeated, he would store it inside the labyrinth, and then high-quality demon steel was completed before anyone realizes. Whilst doing combat training against iron golems, material can be collected too. It was precisely killing 2 birds with 1 stone. As things are now, the other floor guardians might do something to raise money too. By any chance has he been earning more money than me? Shin is a former monster and doesn't have any deep attachments towards money. However, she has recently been having quite a hard time thinking of a way to prepare equipment for her subordinates. In the first place, Shin was always unconcerned about money and other such things. It was only a recent change for her to begin paying attention to such matters. It's ridiculous for me to make money, and thus Shin didn't have any money. The first priority of the workshops of Tempest was the Second Army led by Gerudo. Recently, the equipment had been distributed to all of its members, though the maintenance was also a problematic issue since there are a lot of members. Since the equipment was made from demon steel, it would repair itself from the majority of damage, however it was also a fact that it was mostly used up for them. Next was the businesses for selling to the adventurers. Because this was a national policy, it could be that the aim is to earn foreign currencies, so Shin couldn't interfere. Thus, by reserving her free time, she had laboriously obtained the equipment through wholesale. Of course, it was for free. Because, they were all things that had been made by the blacksmiths for practice, which were then handed over to her. She hadn't had any dissatisfaction until now, however it was not amusing for her that the simple pawn soldiers were equipped with magic armor. Before the Empire came to attack, she had received a number of sets of armor from Rimuru. They were beautiful full plates all with a certain bluish-purple color. However, it was only given to the members of Yamigiri and the commanders, it had not been distributed to the newcomers that had recently joined. For them, the similarities in their equipment were limited to the color. Since it couldn't be helped, she was going to report it to Rimuru with the thought of getting new equipment, but after seeing how the newcomer Adalman hadn't relied on Rimuru and had prepared the equipment by himself, it made Shin have second thoughts. It seems I have depended too much on Rimuru-sama, so. What a guy. I will display that we can procure equipment by ourselves. Suddenly, Shin mustered her motivation. Regardless, in front of them stood an army of giants in large suits of armor. materials that they were free to take. Listen you guys. I won't say much. But do you guys understand what you need to do? One's equipment is gained by one's own efforts. In response to Shin's question, the elite corps displayed their motivation. Shin nods satisfied to that. Adelman, who was next to her, felt that something was a little off, however he couldn't quite place it. Adelman, because he has a perspective similar to that of a human, he had bribed the craftsman through various means in order to receive the equipment. He wouldn't say unreasonable things such as, do it for free, like Shin. Not good. It would be better for me to not say anything to Shindano. Yesterday, a guy had suddenly appeared and claimed that Rimura was dead. Alderman had a hard time calming Shin down. Rimura-sama won't perish that easily. He had frantically calmed Shin, the blessing hasn't disappeared, so in the worst case he may have been sealed somewhere, was how he tried to convince Shin into calming down. However. Sealed you say? Then, I must leave immediately in order to help him. To Shin, who began to say unreasonable things. The enemy's commander is approaching. If it's the person named Dagruel, he might know about the details. He said that, and thus succeeded in turning Shin's anger towards the enemy. Even this time, with the matter about the armor, he had nearly ended up picking a fight with Shin, as such he was scared about whether she would snatch the pawn soldier's armor. No, Adelman certainly thought that it wasn't strange to make a comparison about the quality of the equipment even though the pawn soldier are small fry compared to Shin's elite corps. Adelman had felt relieved since he was splendidly able to divert Shin's attention away. The tongue is the origin of calamity. Saying needless things will just catch Shin's interest, and dwelling on it any further could be dangerous, was what Adelman thought. Therefore, he pointed her aggression towards the enemy. Well then, Shindano. May I perform the opening strike? He asked. He was worried that if he did as he pleased, afterwards there would be complaints from her. If Shin was the one who opened the battle, he would only be able to support. Since it would be impossible for him to use his large-scale attacks as he would hit his allies as well once both army collides. So if possible, he wanted to be the one who opened the battle, however. That was solely up to Shin's decision. Very well, I will permit you to do it. You better rampage to your heart's content. Shin gave permission whilst in high spirits, as the prospect of obtaining equipment was in sight. Shin's cold eyes gazed like a predator who had her prey in sight. When Adelman heard Shin's words. Thank you very much. Well then. He bowed to Shin and moved elsewhere. Shin, who saw that, laughed lightly. To the ones who mock the great demon Lord Rimuru, die. And if by any chance Rimuru-sama is sealed, I will show that I will rescue him. Those were her thoughts. By the way, she was satisfied as she seemed to be about to be able to renew her subordinate's equipment and also able to go wild against a suitable foe. At the same time, in her mind, a cool-headed calculation was being carried out. Though their numbers surpassed the enemy's, they were inferior in terms of quality. She mustn't look down on this battle. Worst-case scenario, even if she loses her entire army, she thought that it may be necessary in order to defeat Dagruel. In the sky and on the ground. Since when being attacked from two sides, the defense will immediately collapse should one of the sides be defeated. Even in the worst case, this side must absolutely not be defeated. Shin engraved that fact in her mind whilst conversing with the fools in Adelman. Glancing at Degura, Ryura, and Debura, the three that are Dagruel's sons, Shin thought even further. How strong is Dagruel, truly? Dagruel seems to have two younger brothers too, and the ability of those two are yet unknown. They are opponents that she must never be careless with. Even so, the victor will be me. Shin smiled fearlessly still. Her smile encouraged her allies and gave them strength. The battle would begin soon. For once, I have to agree with Shin's Tsukamai. 2. It's a pun that doesn't translate well. The pun is, Shin says. Means her personality become rounded/mellowed. Someone that is rounded, belly, is fat, so the Degura heard it and interpreted it as, I have become fat/gain weight. Hence the pun. 3. Yeah, like how there are 3 creepy M who adores you. XD. For https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/hikato-NC airs the singular form, hekatonkir, meaning, hundred-handed ones, also called the centimons. They are a giant/titan with 100 arms. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 206, vs Dagruel Part 2. vs Dagruel Part 2. Adalman stood on the back of the death dragon, Wenti, as he glared at the ground. Wenti, who was soaring high in the sky with her original appearance, that of a wicked dragon, was scattering around an ominous aura. Human who have weak resistance will die just by being exposed to her aura. However, on the contrary, it gives power to Adalman. Fuma with a nod, Adalman began thinking. Making pre-battle statements would be futile as the opposition's opinion was so far off. Against Dagruel's army, which already invaded and trespassed the national borders, even warning is meaningless. If that's the case, he decided that it might be okay for him to cast a very flashy extreme magic as the sign of the start of the war. Adalman begins to chant the incantation. Though he can use it without chanting, he lengthily chants it because of old habits and spiritual build-up. However, this incantation of his, he thought that chanting it properly is better than going the easy route. The reason why is, it can't be used inside the labyrinth, or rather, it was unusable due to him lacking the magic power. While he was alive he had the knowledge, but this is the first time he's decided to use the magic for real. If it's for a flashy magic, then it will be good. Such was his idea. Trying not to be too eager chanting the incantation for the first time in his life, he looks at the ground and determines the sphere of influence of the magic. He didn't care whether it will activate or not. According to the ancient documents, it's an extreme magic that needs several archmages to activate it. It'd be funny if he couldn't invoke the magic. Fortunately there's no witnesses here. So, he will just cast a different magic at that time. Well now, this magic will become the signal for the start of the war. Please succeed. While Adalman prayed so, the perfect magic mastery effect of the ultimate gift Necromicon is activated. Adalman's knowledge is being corrected by Seeker of Truth, and words are engraved into his mind. It seems that if he succeed in chanting the spell in the first time, he will be able to invoke the magic immediately for the second time. Ah, I see. In this case, I understand that chanting the incantation is not necessary. Filled with a pleasant feeling of fulfillment, Adalman understood his ability. And then one. Well then, you better experience this properly in Ancient Extreme Magic 2, Tempest Meteor 3. In an instant, glittering dazzling lights pours down from the magic formation that appeared suddenly in the sky. It's as beautiful as the wonder of a starry night. However, it's a dreadful light that brings forth death and destruction. Even though it's a grand magic that would need several archmages of old to successfully cast, the completed extreme magic of Adalman is several levels above it in scale and power. And it's magic that starts with Tempest in its name, symbolizing their country. With the correction of ultimate gift Necromicon, he had shown this world the perfected result. The best that the past archmages able to summon were just several meteorites. Even so, it was a grand magic of strategic class, showing a great effect as anti-army magic, but the number of meteorites summoned by the magic that Adalman invoked exceeds 1.000. The ground is rained down by meteorites with diameter of 50 cm 1m, spreading death to Dagruel's troops. Even if the giants are known for their superior regeneration power, there's no meaning if they received damage they can't regenerate. The limbs that tried to catch the meteorite are blown off, and their heads are crushed. The giant race who intended to invade with their huge power is at their wits' end, as they weren't even able to escape. The extreme magic that Adalman cast showed more effect than he had intended. Only by one magic, nearly 1/3 of Dagruel's army became unable to fight. Look, Gadra. As I expected, my magic is wonderful, right? Surprised by the result having more effect than expected, Adalman boasts it to his companion, Gadra, like it's natural. Because his bone face doesn't have an expression, he's safe knowing that his true feelings weren't exposed. Being able to boast to the man who is his rival is the greatest thing, above all else. It was not amusing for Gadra, who came to this war against his will, but he can't help admitting the power of Adalman's extreme magic. For Gadra Raushi, who is a newcomer, he wanted to attain some achievement. You see, since he earned his affiliation with Demon Lord Rimuru only by deserting the Empire, it was painful, not being useful at all. This war was a competition for the hegemony of this world. He thought, if he couldn't be useful now, he'd end up being useless throughout in his career history. Although he's taken part in the discussion of various researches, he's not satisfied with just that. Humph. Shut up. I will show you the real extreme magic. It's just that, because my magic power is not enough, could I have you cooperate with me? Rather, what the heck is this guy, how can he learn such magic? His forte should be divine magic and undead magic though. This kind magic is my specialty, you know. I'm sad. Gadra with Adalman's cooperation commencing the chant of the incantation while harboring an indescribable feeling. Gadra receives the aid of ultimate gift grimoire and understand the principle of the incantation as well as Adalman. Indeed, this is really wonderful. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough energy even with my magic power. Gadra regrets that he's unable to use the magic just with his own power, but it can't be helped and he come to a clear decision. He had reincarnated repeatedly and was proud of his enormous amounts of energy, far more than most people, but compared with the high ranking of Tempest, he is just an insignificant person. There are frustrated feelings of being defeated by Adalman who once was his rival, but he understands that being prideful is useless. So he chooses the strongest magic in his knowledge and begins to chant it. The highest level of darkness magic that even Adalman don't know. While Adalman just used probably one of the highest level summoning spells. If Adalman is able to use summoning arts, it's not strange that its application usage reached the ultimate level. Then, with the highest level of darkness magic he's most skillful in, let's show it in this place. Gadra thought so. And, O thou who suffers in everlasting starvation, heed my call. Nihilistic Hazard 4. The strongest of divine magic is the ultimate anti-personnel destruction magic disintegration, which is well known. It's known that there are a few people who can use it, but its high power is guaranteed. It's said that person who receives a direct hit and can survive doesn't exist. 5. However, if there's weakness of this magic, it might be that it's a single target magic. The attack range is extremely short. It was a natural reason why the magic has a high power, but against an army it was a useless magic. Because he's well informed about this matter, it might be why Adalman used the strongest spell in summoning magic. And what Gadra chose was the opposite of disintegration, the strongest large-scale annihilation spell of darkness magic. A very large magic formation emerges on the ground and the sky. And, like connecting the sky and the ground, dark electric discharge begun to appear and innumerable spheres of electricity were released. The fang of darkness that swallows all substances. It's darkness magic that brings void to this world and is considered as one of the forbidden spells. The void let loose in the world doesn't vanish until its negative energy turns null. Everyone inside the barrier of the magic formation that links the ground and the sky is devoured and their existence is erased. It was one of the ultimate magics that was feared, as a mistake in its control can bring destruction to the world. Wahahaha. How's that? Amazing, right? You fool. What are you thinking? If I didn't help you, you would absolutely fail to control it, you know. That's might be right, but I want to be in the spotlight too. That's not an excuse. To use such dangerous magic. Adalman is stunned. Certainly, as this world might be destroyed if Gadra fails his control of the magic, Gadra can't make any excuse. He was confident in his control, but he almost loses his consciousness as he didn't have enough energy. He succeeded in his experiment before with his own energy, and the best he could do was to confine several people inside the field. It's only to the degree of better than an anti-personnel spell. It was barely a success at that time, but it would end with casualty that a village disappeared in case he failed in his control. That's because he was only putting a little energy in it. When he put enormous magic essence to invoke the magic like what they done right now, the world will be really in crisis. But, that's only the story if he failed. Well, it's all good, right? It's a success. Gadra, who's not reflecting, could be called as a degenerate mad genius. Adalman letting out a given up sigh as he recalled the thing. It would be useless even if he says anything anyway. In fact, there's no problem since he succeeded. Besides, they seemed to succeed in greatly reducing the number of the enemy's army with too extreme magic. As the giant race could be said as a lump of energy, they seem not to be totally annihilated as they can counter the minus energy. But still, when compared to their original number, the number had already decreased by a half. Normally in such situation people would give up the war and withdraw. Then what will be their choice? With that thought, Adalman's group would breathlessly witness it with their eyes. The giants continue their attack without minding the death of their comrades. Those who avoided instant death regenerated from their damage with their transcendence regeneration like it was nothing. They didn't show any behavior indicating that they mind about their decrease in number. Their appearance is very eerie and aroused fear to those who opposed them. But that's in case the people who fight them had a sense of fear. Adalman and co are fed up after seeing the attitude of Dagruel's army. Good grief. Do those people didn't feel fear? Not at all, I guess. Usually when thinking about countermeasures, they should have pulled back immediately. Looking at each other's face, the two nod in agreement of each other's thoughts. Should we fall back? Yeah. We used too much magic power. Let's withdraw. However, I'm glad that my corps is the Immortal Legion, which don't fear death. The giant race army, which thought nothing of death, they're more difficult than a mere death soldier. Completely. But, it's good that we can reduce their number here. They're still a threat even with such number, but they would be defeated if the clash begins as they didn't know anything. There's no meaning having the advantage of number. Oh well, let's return and report it to Shindano. Adalman caressed the head of the death dragon Wenti and gave her an order to withdraw. He succeeded in the opening by delivering a blow to the enemy with his magic accordingly to his original objective. There's no need to stay too long in the place. He comes back quickly as he need to report the threat of Dagruel's army. Their fearsome points were their immovable mind and their super regeneration. Even though it's possible to revive the Immortal Legion, it would be of course impossible if they were crushed into small pieces. He has the premonition that the giants with their overwhelming destructive power will trample on the Immortal Legion. Oh well, that's fine. Anyway, Adalman think that it's good as long as they're able to decrease the number of the giants. At any rate, I need to return and discuss about this. Adalman returned to the camp while thinking about what would happen later. The total number of Chain of Restraint Titan army was approximately 100.000. For his army to be reduced by about 50.000 before the clash with the enemy main force, even for Dagruel, it was a miscalculation. For Dagruel, however, he didn't feel the loss at all. That is because the people killed by the magic had little strength and have no luck. It's true that it was a splendid magic. But, falling back due to what can be assumed as anti-group magic is something that a soldier couldn't do. In fact, the steps of the true main force of the people he trusted will not be hindered by anyone. The magic a while ago was certainly splendid. Probably it's the work of that ghost king named Adalman who visited him to construct the transfer magic formation before. As expected, he has a superb ability. And also his magician friend who looks like a wise man. It wouldn't be strange if the second magic is his work. They're a wonderful people. As an enemy, they make his heart excited. It just unfortunately, Dagruel can't be defeated by magic. Because, as a true giant, he has the absolute ability called Magic Nullity. By activating the anti-magic guard, absolute magic defense, it will automatically neutralize all magic attacks. As long as he has this ability, he can ignore all magic attacks. Therefore, people who killed by the current magic are weak in an existence which can to be thrown away. Suddenly, he thinks about his sons, Degura, Ryura, and Debura, those three. They're going to fight against him, but what kind of fight they will show to him? His sons whom only have big power because he raised them indulgently, but their actual ability is not really much. Everyone around Dino said that handing over the throne to those sons are fine, though he ignored it. It must be the work of that crafty guy. Anyway, he let him corrupt his sons, and it might be a compliment that he thought to add them as his subordinates. Or possibly, his aim might be actually was to deprave Dagruel and making him retire after foreseeing this current situation. As a matter of fact, he was anticipating this situation. By depraving and making Dagruel retire, is it possible to escape from Feldenava's rule? Am I thinking into it too much? So Dagruel denied the thought. That good-natured friend of his is also affiliated with Velda. That's right, we too can't go against Velda's order. Because it's absolutely impossible to go against their creator master. But, in case of his sons, they're released from that curse. That's right, I wish for my sons to live freely. Even so, Dagruel won't hold back if they stand in front of him as an enemy. They should be stronger. At least, they could last for a bit against me. Dagruel has no hesitation. He only accomplishes his mission. Simple and frank, as he was a soldier. And so, the power of the giants sweep over this battlefield. 1. In case you just realize, the author omitted the incantation XD. 2. Kyakyu Demaha, if you watch or read Magi you'll know about this word. 3. Bakaharaya Siren, Supreme Exploding Meteor Storm. 4. Zekabakyo Musaigai, Severing Fang Nihility Calamity. 5. There's though. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 207, vs Dagruel Part 3. vs Dagruel Part 3. Dagruel's forces continued marching forward. Although the lines crumbled for a short period, by the time they made contact with the Immortal Legion the lines had already reformed. Accepting the deaths of their comrades as though nothing has happened, they overcame the hurdle and continued moving onward. Within their eyes, was their absolute faith and fealty to Dagruel. The giants marched onwards, embodying the statement, "There is nothing to fear." 2 hours after the battle started, the battlefield had fallen into a stalemate. The majority of the giants were roughly 3-5 m in height, among them were also super big individuals towering at 10 m in height. At first the giants pushed against the Immortal Legion making use of their size, crushing the skeletons as though twigs, but as time passed the situation changed like the flip of a coin. Because of Adalman's usage of his undead magic's ultimate arts. Using the scattered bodies of the skeletons, giant skeletons were summoned. And what these huge bodies equipped, were magic weapons that are made from fusing together heaps of magic steel weapons. As the vessel was composed from the unity of many grudges of the dead, the weapons that they previously wielded adapted and changed to suit their present form. With that, multiple skeleton giants at 7 m in height were created. While the giants were making up for their handicap in numbers with their combat prowess and size, they started to lose that advantage with the emergence of the giant skeletons. The Immortal Legion was clad in a holy aura, with heal rain, light of recovery, which would normally burn them to cinders, being cast over them by Adalman. This gave a new meaning to the word undying. They would recover on the spot, no matter how much they get battered and broken. But, the giants weren't losing out either. Whatever injuries that are inflicted upon their bodies, as long as it isn't fatal damage, they will steadily regenerate and recover. As neither side has been losing numbers, the situation was just a back and forth of them trading blows. So, what's the plan now? On the outer walls, which have been enchanted with a barrier which prevents intrusion from monsters, was Shin, standing atop the highest point and viewing the battlefield with a bird's-eye view. Due to Adalman and Gadra's great magic attack, their forces now outnumber the enemy 3-1. At first they thought they might be able to achieve an overwhelming victory, but according to Adalman's report, the giants showed no fear. Then he reported something even more troublesome, their super regeneration. Though the Immortal Legion has stopped getting knocked around, the number of casualties for the giants was lower than expected. While the big giants are busy fighting the giant skeletons, the Death Knights would move in to finish a foe. That was the plan of action they decided upon, but it was still easier said than done. Though Shin's elite guard, the Terror Knights, were kept in reserve, Shin came to the conclusion that even if they were to be mobilized, they wouldn't be able to make much of an impact on the battlefield with their fear-inducing abilities. The reason was obviously because there won't be much of an effect on enemies that don't feel fear. Chances are the effects would be easily resisted. This is troublesome, Shin thought, as she bit her lip. Shortly after the battle started, they had a brief strategic meet with Adalman who just returned. As they can't count on their advantage in numbers, they decided to probe the enemy for information by making use of the Immortal Legion's undead property. It was a conservative move, but for the sake of discerning the enemy's capabilities, they reached the consensus of avoiding a full-scale clash at the very beginning. In addition, there was a point of concern that Gadra spoke of. I found it to be a little perplexing. How did they disperse the nihilistic hazard? To me, it looked as though they were nullifying the magic. That was what he said. As he has spent all his energy and was unable to cast another volley of great magic, it was his intuition as a great magic user that gave him the feeling that something was amiss. The meteor attacks also didn't cause as much damage as was expected, but it was how unnaturally his nihilistic hazard was dispersed that really gave rise to his suspicions. It might just be him imagining things, but it's better to take note of this. It's not like Shin could use magic, but attacks that made use of energy could be affected too. It was expected to at least be wary in case it really happens. Shin was observing the battlefield, as she thought of such details. Standing by behind her, were Degura, Ryura and Deborah. What they were looking at, was an individual who looks like a commanding officer of Dagruel's forces, who was locked in a duel with Albert. The officer wielded a great sword like it was part of his body. He showed great pride in his strength, setting him apart from his peers. It looks like Albert is the only one able to stand up against him. The man moved nimbly and skillfully, uncharacteristic of his bulky build at 3 m in height. Seeing as he is up against the ultra first-class swordsmanship from Albert, him being able to battle toe-to-toe with Albert was abnormal as it is. What a strength! To think there would be a warrior who lives by the sword among the giants. Right. That's our old man's adjutant, Uncle Grawward. Degura answered, from hearing what Shin muttered. Grawward. An ultra first-rate two-handed sword user. And, the second in command of the giant forces. Though his total energy levels are lower than Dagruel, it is said that his swordsmanship is at a higher level instead. If you look at it from another perspective, it might be Albert who is the abnormal one, being able to cross swords with such an individual. He was parrying heavy attacks that would normally crush opponents as though a flowing willow. He's even adding in counter-attacks. It was a feat possible only due to the full set of God's class equipment he was bestowed with. That was because if it was equipment of Legend class or below, it would have shattered from receiving the first attack. Due to Grassword's abilities magic immunity and weapon destruction. Normal equipment would be destroyed the moment they made contact. Armor would also be destroyed, and his opponent would then have to receive his killer attacks naked. That was knowledge that was known to only Degura and his brothers at that moment, and Albert being the only one able to put up a proper fight against him was a coincidence that was nothing short of a miracle. But, it was ironic that nobody knew, the fact that this coincidence has been narrowly preventing the collapse of the front lines, if you can call it irony that is. Though the threat was there, as there was someone who was able to stand against and hold back the threat, the danger the threat posed was not noticed by the others. However, all that was irrelevant to the two persons in question. Such things were the least of their worries, as they duked it out ever more intensely. Our old man ain't making his move. Should we move in the face him, if he actually shows movement? Don't he be getting excited just yet? It's obvious, but I'll be the one to face him. You boys lead the Terror Knights and prevent any potential interruptions. Roger that. But, it's better to not underestimate our old man. Though Nasan might be pretty powerful, our old man's a real monster. Shin and Co had such exchanges, while they turned their attention to the main enemy encampment. There were no signs of movement. But, that instead gave off an extremely ominous atmosphere. It felt dangerous to make the first move, as there is no movement from the main enemy encampment. It still didn't feel like the proper opportunity to move her elite forces yet, but the present situation isn't going to change from them just staring at it. The frustration was starting to set in on Shin. Should I just go with an all-out attack? Right as Shin was contemplating such thoughts. Suddenly, a change to the situation occurred. The change was as intense as it was sudden. That's. Hearing Ryura's muttering, Shin, who was looking at Albert and Grassword's battle, diverted her attention. A certain individual was walking out from Dagruel's main encampment. Wrapped in layer upon layer of chains, was a man who looks like he lost too much weight. At a height of 2.5 m, he was of a smaller frame than what you would expect of the giants. But, despite being chained all over, the intense presence coming from him drew more attention than any other giant could. Their natural instincts were appealing desperately, at how dangerous that man is. Is that, our uncle that has been sealed for the longest time? So that's feared and known as the war god, the rampaging Kishin one. Uncle Fen. Phew 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 phew. I'm getting hungry. Without saying anything, another corkscrew punch made its way to Deborah's gut. And you had your fill with that? Next time you say something as irrelevant as that, don't think you're gonna survive. Shin angrily said her piece. But the tension was broken thanks to Deborah's dumb interjection. They began observing that individual, now that they have calmed down. The chains were writhing and pulsing. There was a smile on the man's face, even though he looked like he was heavily restricted by the weird chains. The kind of smile that shows just how elated a person is. A simple probe showed that his predicted energy levels surpassed Dagruel. Shin was surprised. Though there were many beings that had high energy levels among her comrades, this made them look like children in comparison. This, to Shin's knowledge, was at the highest level it was at the class of the true dragons. He was comparable to Feldera or Vilgrind. No shit. That guy is one heck of a beast. Isn't it pretty much impossible for you boys to face that? Shin exclaimed. It was unexpected that there would be another monster of this level besides Dagruel. She thought it was excessive to have 2 members of the 12 Guardians here. As Demon Lord Ruminaz was also here. No matter how big Demon Lord Dagruel was, it shouldn't be too difficult to handle as there was 3 awakened Demon Lord class beings here, were her thoughts. But having reached this point, she recognizes how naive that thought was. She has also noticed that it was just really good luck that Albert is able to keep the second-in-command in check all by himself. This is way nastier than what was expected. So that is our other Uncle Fen, huh? You don't say. A monster of that level was unexpected, even for me. Uncle Grawward was bad enough already, Uncle Fen is on a whole other level. Phew phew phew. That skinny bones, Emma bet I can beat him easily if it's weight we're talking about. Maybe I should really kill this fatso. As Shin was thinking that, something happened to the chained man. The chains were being released. Those chains, is that Gleipnir? If that's the case, this would be pretty dangerous, yes. Gadra Raushi, who has been standing by behind them, spoke up to Shin. As he has used all his energy earlier, Gadra Raushi has been resting after the end of their meeting, but has woken up from noticing the changes in the battlefield's atmosphere. Oh, it's Gadra. So, what's that Gleipnir? Right. This is something that has only been passed down in ancient texts. It is said that during the Age of Gods, the Dragon Emperor sealed an evil god too. 2 of the 3 brothers turned over a new leaf, but as the remaining sibling chose to retain his brutal nature, he was sealed with the chains of God. Gleipnir are the names of the chains of God. Gleipnir. Chains that sealed an evil god who emitted immense amounts of energy. If the legends are true, the chains will have been absorbing the energy emitted from the evil god, and have evolved. During that time period, these chains were said to be the possession of the Dragon Emperor, and was able to seal both divine and demonic beings. In the current era, it wouldn't be surprising if it had properties on par with God-class artifacts. But, what was truly terrifying, was not the chains. The evil god which was sealed by those very chains, was what they needed to be wary of. Do you think the stories are true? I am afraid so. My advice for the best course of action, would be to retreat. Shin frowned at Gadra's submissive view. But it wasn't out of anger. For someone as aged and knowledgeable as Gadra, there was a certain weight for him to give such advice to Shin, whom he is fully aware of her aggressive nature. That was a warning, coming from someone who knows how capable the 12 Guardians are. We will not retreat. We have been given orders from Rimuru-sama to defend these lands. To retreat would be to go against Rimuru-sama's will. As of now, as Rimuru-sama is concealing himself, that means we have been given the reins on how we intend to end this great war. But that will only happen after we manage the problem that we have here at this location. We have our orders, and we shall not fail to execute them. This represents our faith in Rimuru-sama, and also serves to prove that Rimuru-sama's strategies are the proper answer. Any objections? There are none. All right. That's right, retreat was out of the question. To them, retreating would be the same as saying Rimuru's strategy was mistaken, as he was the one who judged that Shin and Co. would be able to successfully defend this land. Such thoughts will never be acknowledged. On the off chance that defeat actually occurs. That defeat too, would have been accepted as orders from Rimuru. Having received Shin's intense will, the disposition of Shin's elite guard changed. The elite guard standing by at the outer peripheral walls overheard the conversation between Gadra and Shin. If a conversation isn't conducted privately, the contents are usually transmitted to the vicinity. The elite guard made their preparations, having received Shin's will. Meanwhile, Fen makes his move. He traverses the battlefield at incredible speeds, moving as though he was the wind itself. And finishes his sprint by launching an offensive against Adelman, who was at the rear lines supporting his allies with magic. Adelman, who was supposed to be protected by many layers of magic barriers, was knocked onto the ground in a single blow. Fen grasps the initiative of their battle in an instant. The battlefield was visited by a terrifying silence. Impossible. What speed, no, power? Adelman constantly protects himself with a myriad of magic barriers, how did he? Shin shouted. Such bewildering power. Adelman was brought to the ground, from an attack that was simply a punch brimming with fighting spirit, without the use of any abilities. Though Death Dragon Wenti immediately went to Adelman's aid, she too was sent flying from a simple aura bullet released from Fen's palm. After seeing this unreal combat power, Shin wasn't even trying to hide her surprise. Adelman looks like a rear support type, so it is assumed that he isn't suited to close quarters battles. Even if that was the case, he still is one of the 12 guardians. Evasion via teleporting should have been possible after using high-speed cognition. As he wasn't able to do that, the chances of the opponent having some kind of cognition obstruction effect or ability are now very high. What an enemy, I need to head to his aid soon. Just as Shin was thinking about that. Famu. To still spectating, in front of me. That's some composure you got there. Shin hears a voice behind her. This is Shin's main camp, so having multiple defensive barriers in place is a no-brainer. It is possible to ignore all of those barriers, and in addition, to be able to stand behind Shin without her even realizing it. There's no way that's possible. As Shin thought, and she turns around. There stood a towering giant. Standing right on the peripheral wall, right behind Shin. With his sturdy 3m tall build, it was Demon Lord Dagruel. She had met him once during Wall Purchase, but the king's haki he is exuding now was incomparable to when she met him in the past. When did you? Famu. I have arrived here, just moments earlier. Could it be, that you didn't see me arrive? If that's the case, this won't even be a fight. It's starting to feel like a joke trying to take this seriously. This can't be. I'm not believing this. Shin drew her sword as she shouted. Impossible. Shin was trying to calm herself down by telling herself, he must be bluffing. There was no way she was going to accept the fact that a giant just moved to such close proximity of herself without her even managing to see it happen. Accepting this fact was almost equal to accepting her defeat. Shin activates her unique skill chef, and using its matter-altering properties, she boosts her own stats. With her body which has high immortal properties, Shin manages to contain the power which surpasses the limits of what normal beings can handle. Having reached the output range of an ultimate skill, Shin unleashes a single attack with everything she had. Shin was planning to defeat Dagruel with this very attack. This is bad. The anti-monster barrier on this peripheral wall is going to get blown away with that attack. Gadra shouted, as he gets the elite guard to retreat. Even as she was confirming what was happening at the corner of her vision, Shin went ahead with her slash onto Dagruel. Dagruel didn't even move. And, at the very moment Shin's blade was about to make contact with his head. How naive! He roared. With enough fighting spirit to shake his surroundings, that pressure alone stopped Shin's swing. Because of his incredibly dense fighting spirit, Shin's attack didn't even manage to so much as touch Dagruel's skin. He was every bit of the monster the rumors made him out to be. Wadash. Shin's eyes were wide open due to how surprised she was, and she stopped moving for a brief moment. And, Dagruel wasn't so kind as to miss out on such a critical opening. It looks like it's still too early, for someone of your caliber to stand before me. With that as his final words for her, he moved towards Shin at speeds she could not perceive and swung his fist down on her. The peripheral wall crumbles, to the might of his violence. What happened to Shin, who took a direct hit, was obvious. This was not something that could be called a fight. This was what could be seen as an absolute being making use of his strength to sweep away an annoyance. But, at that moment, looks like you're the one who is naive. With the sweet scent of roses, a red streak of light flashes and makes contact with Dagruel's head. From there, descended a silver-haired girl. Wearing a jet black dress, with gold and silver heterochromic eyes which show her shining resolve. Demon Lord Ruminus. This was the very moment the ruler of these lands joined the battle. Humph. People like you, usually show openings at the moment of triumph. As it was a problem for me to break through your defenses, I was observing the situation and letting it pan out waiting for my opportunity. Looks like you were careless, Dagruel. Don't think too badly of me, and take a little nap there for the moment. As she has said herself, Ruminus has been observing the situation from the very beginning. She understood that her chances of victory were low, if she were to face Dagruel head-on. Ruminus properly understood the limit of her own abilities, so she didn't think her actions were underhanded. To fight the battle which she knew she could win. That was her way of life. She unleashed her most devastating attack, on the careless Dagruel. As Ruminus was someone who had access to an ability which controlled life and death, it was an attack that had the full intention of slaying her foe. Which was also why. Famu. So it's Ruminus, huh? And you are right, that I had been careless. But, could you really say that has been a problem? Did that attack actually damage me? Those words caused her to freeze up. Ruminus was a knowledgeable being, she properly understood what those preposterous words meant. Which was that Dagruel was unharmed. This event manages to prove a single fact. That. Are you all done now? Now then, it's my turn next. Brace yourselves. Or it will be over in an instant. As they have not been able to defeat him even with Ruminus' attack, it was a fact that Ruminus' forces would be unable to attain the victory. A period of despair was beginning. On these lands, the absolute tyranny of Demon Lord Dagruel was about to sweep across the battlefield. One Kishin means fierce god/oni god, a term for wrathful deities. 2 Akujin, with kanji of evil and god/deity. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 208, vs Dagruel Part 4. vs Dagruel Part 4. The battle between Albert and Graward grew more intense. Because each of the commanders were fighting, the chain of command ceased in its functioning, as such, the troops fell into disorder. However, such a matter was a trifling issue for the commanders in question. Both of them had recognized the other as a worthy opponent and were enjoying the battle. Ka. Quite the skill you have there, you amazed me. To have a chance to cross swords with a person like you, it is a great honor as a warrior. This is not by my skill. Only by these, the equipment which was given to me by my master Rimuru, that have granted me such strength. If it was with my former equipment, I would already be defeated without being able to so much as endure the pressure of your sword. Albert calmly turned aside Grassword's praise. It was true, however it was only by Albert's ability that the power of the god-grade equipment was drawn out. Ha! No need to be humble. Amongst the giants, there are only a few who can fight me. Although we were going to do a pincer attack on Demon Lord Rumina's army with the angels, the situation is now beyond our control. However, defeating one of the enemy generals is also an important duty. Since there is no lack of opponents. Yet. Still, my younger brother Fen really picked the short straw. Even though he was this precious opportunity where he can rampage as much as he wants, he received a weak magician as his opponent. Certainly knowledge is wonderful, as a person that man may have a favorable impression, however. Because we have magic nullity, a magician is utterly useless. He exclaimed so whilst brandishing his great sword. He planned to make Albert, who was worried about his master, become agitated by his words. A small mistake would lead to death. It was an excellent tactic to induce unrest to the mind of his opponent. On the other hand, Albert, without changing his expression. It seems you are clearly misunderstanding something. Certainly, I, as the guard of Adalman-sama, am the one in charge of the vanguard. However, I would like to ask you to not forget this. Adalman-sama, as one of the 12 guardian lords of Rimuru-sama, is far stronger than me. You understand what that means, right? He said that and denied Grassword's words. Grawword muttered ho, and raised one of his eyebrows. Then he suddenly raised his sword over his head without speaking further. His strategy to provoke his opponent seemed to have failed. Then, in that case he will just beat him from the front. Grawword decided on such a plain and simple tactic. Phew, is that so? In that case it's good that Fen will truly enjoy his battle. Oh well. Then I shall accomplish my duty. And so the intense sword fight restarted. Their clash reached the climax. Before long the two paid no attention to their surroundings, focusing their minds only on their swords. Being thrown to the ground, Adalman felt that his consciousness was about to disappear for an instant. He could understand exactly what had occurred. He was able to see the moment the enemy had jumped, matching the timing of the activation of his magic. Adalman prioritized the incantation of the great magic in order to overturn the situation of the battle. Even though he could invoke the magic without the chant, it was limited to the image of what he had experienced before. As for the great magic that he was about to use, he considered that chanting was necessary in order to invoke it successfully, once he had ascertained the situation. This reasoning came about because he wanted to use his recovered energy effectively. Especially since, after he had invoked the great magic at the beginning, he had kept on invoking spells one after the other. That was why he thought that it wouldn't be amusing if the magic incantation that he had been working on was interrupted partway, so he focused his concentration on the invocation of said spell. He had decided such only because he was confident with his defenses against physical attacks, yet the enemy's ability seemed to have surpassed what Adalman had expected. His multiple barriers were all broken through, hardly even one of his defensive measures showed any effect. If not for that one defensive measure, there was a possibility that Adalman would have received a fatal blow at that moment. Though, it's kind of strange to say that he, who is already dead, would receive a fatal wound again. How? For him to penetrate my magic barriers as if he was ignoring them, does that mean that this guy's ability is actually magic nullity? Adalman had arrived to the correct answer instantly. It was fortunate that what Gadra had hinted at before came into his mind. If that's the case, he was correct in preparing a defensive measure other than magic. Oh well. After all, this magic will have exhausted my magic power. Whether it's magic nullity or anything else, it already doesn't matter. Rather it's convenient for me. Though he can't be said to be unharmed, his plan had succeeded. The great magic that Adalman had chanted activated without any problems. The invoked magic was called Immortal Legion 1. One of the ultimate magics that have a wide area of effect. Just like the word legion in the spell name suggests, it was the highest level forbidden spell of undead magic which uses and turns the dead into soldiers. The magic transforms and turns the dead in this battle, regardless whether they were allies or enemies, into soldiers faithful to his command. Giants have a high regeneration power and don't die easily. Because superficial injuries would be restored by themselves, it was necessary to destroy them completely. Therefore there was the need to wait for corpses to build up in the battlefield. Watching the state of the battlefield, Adalman had decided that it was the time to use the spell. For that reason he had concentrated in order to chant the magic. The bodies of the giants scattered on the ground were combined by the huge magic formation that appeared in the sky and on the ground into several lumps of flesh. Then limbs appeared from the lumps of flesh, and 4 tall giants were born. Death giants, that were one size larger than the Death Knights. Their fighting power greatly surpassed the power they had whilst alive. Not only from their bodies' own properties, they also had enormous energy as the souls of the Death Giants gathered as one. Originally, they would lose their regeneration ability when they become zombie, but this trait is kept as is. They were reborn as monsters with fighting power over a rank which surpasses even the Death Knights. Though, since there were many bodies which weren't completely usable, the number of the created Death Giants were only about 1.000, but it was plenty sufficient. The created Death Giants attacked the other giants who were their former comrades. Even though Adalman's magic power had run out after using Healing Rain, he already stood up as if there was no problem. Once he had glanced around for an instant and made sure that the Death Giant had begun to rampage, he turned his eyes to Fen, who was trampling upon his army. "Wenti, are you okay?" "Yes, I have been careless." Wenti, who quietly turned into her human form, answered Adalman's question. Although it was true that she had received severe damage, her recovery finished at the same time she transformed herself into human form. It was only usable once a day, but the super recovery is activated due to the change of her body constitution. No, you're not careless, it's just that small stature giant is strong. Your being alright is more important. From what I see, that giant has a body with unbelievably dense energy. Looks like he has holy attribute, magic won't work on him. Had we not changed our attribute into holy attribute, we would have been purified. Adalman spoke of the facts plainly. Like a magician, Adalman's eyes, which looked at Fen, were like those of a researcher. Even so, that giant is too strong. Combat speed, destructive power, and defense power. Looking from many aspects, he's top class. If you only see the amount of his energy, he's equal to a true dragon. Even if Adalman sent giant skeletons, big skeleton knight, against him, they would only be smashed up. Good grief. It seems that it's time for my long-trained body. Ha! At Adalman's confusing words, the Death Dragon Wenti, who had pledged her loyalty to Adalman, let out a questioning voice. Not to mention body, Adalman doesn't even have flesh. He can only be the so-called skeleton. Answering Wenti's question. It seems that I haven't told you about it. When I took the position of Great Priest, my job was different. Originally, I was a high-ranking class of priest and martial artist which was called Holy Fist Monk too. Because there was Albert, who is an excellent vanguard, I didn't need to perform close-range combat. When I fought against you before, I didn't think that it would be effective against you who had no human form, so there were no opportunities to show my skills, you see. Well. But that. You don't say, you intend to fight against that giant barehanded. What, is there a problem? Aren't there various problems though? Or so Wenti thought, but she couldn't say it strongly. She was his long-time acquaintance, but she had never seen Adalman's figure as that of someone who had trained his body. Well, is there any meaning to train as a skeleton? So, she was troubled whether to even ask about it. No, there's. Wenti couldn't answer. For Adalman-sama, who seems to be an intellectual, unexpectedly. She stopped thinking further about it and turned her eyes towards the rampaging Fen. All right. Then, I will tell you the strategy. As magic doesn't work, hit with physical attacks. It's just that. Even your breath, which could cause magic essence diversion, would be treated as magic. Therefore, you and me, who have no means with which to attack, our compatibility with him is horrible. So, here's a suggestion. Saying so, Adalman began to talk about his plan. It was something outside of Wenti's imagination. However, Wenti, who believes in Adalman, agreed without any hesitation. I leave the rest to you, Adalman-sama. May fortune be with you. So she replied with that answer as she relaxed her body. The plan that Adalman proposed was assimilation with possession. Originally, Adalman, as a ghost, is more like a spiritual life form. It could be said that his current state is merely him possessing his dead body, skeleton. The reason is because he needs a temporary body in order to have influence in the physical world. Therefore, he can easily perform possession. If Wenti doesn't resist him, it would certainly succeed. The problem was, it was unknown whether they could separate or not. Be relieved. Even if I possess you, it doesn't mean your consciousness will disappear. In the worst case, we'll ask Rimuru-sama to prepare you a new body. And so, Adalman possessed Wenti. A death dragon has a strong body, high magical power, and energy. In addition to that, is Adalman's own magic power. The possession succeeded. A young man with black hair, clad in jet black priest clothes, made his appearance. Famu, it was a success. As expected of Adalman-sama. The two became one in mind and body. With a strong body and possessing enormous magic power, it was the youth figure of Gehenna Lord Adalman, though there were some differences such as the hair color being different and etc. Fufu, I'm excited after a long time. If it's in this state, I might have a good fight against Zijindano. I seem to have become an equal with Ultima Ju 3. In his skeleton state, he recalled that he couldn't have an exchange of fists with his friend. And so, a fearless smile floated on his face as he flew towards the rampaging giant. He didn't believe that he could beat the giant as it was now. But he could buy some time. Besides, though the giant in front of him is an incarnation of violence, it doesn't seem that he has high skills like the one fighting against Albert. Although the giant has energy comparable to a true dragon, he can only rampaging without reason. For him to aim at Adal-Aman first may have been because he had reacted towards the one having the highest energy in the army. In that case, we might just defeat him if we perform well. It will naturally be possible, if it's Adal-Aman-sama. Reacting to Wenty's thought in his mind, though Adalman was slightly surprised, he nodded frankly. That's so, that's right. Because I am one of Rimuru-sama's strongest subordinates. And so he charged towards Fen while laughing happily. The 7 celestial sages had finished the reconnaissance mission and reported it to Demon Lord Ruminus. Afterwards, they followed Ruminus, who came to the outer district area in order to confront the giants. And so they would encounter a surprising situation. There exists a knight who can fight Graword, who has been called the strongest sword king that ever existed, on equal terms. The attack of Ruminus, who is their master whom they adore and respect, hadn't worked against Demon Lord Dagruel. And the last thing, a person, with a nostalgic face that they remember seeing somewhere, having started a battle against a rampaging giant who was like a berserker, on equal terms. These three events were things that happened almost at the same time. What the heck is this? To be fighting evenly against the Sword King, who is that knight? This is bad. As it is now, Ruminus-sama will lose. Hey, wait. That person, surely. Adalman, isn't he Adalman? Really? Then, that knight is Albert. Those two are Demon Lord Rimuru's subordinates. What the heck is this joke? Thinking at the same time, the 7 celestial sages exchanged the information each of them found. And sharing all of the information at once, they were wrapped in surprise. Adalman and Albert were famous in the past. Adalman, who was the great priest, was a talented master of holy magic. Then, Albert was the strongest holy knight of the previous generation. The two were people who had the qualifications to become the hero. But the hero's egg hadn't dwelled inside either of them. Normally, they'd become sages. And, as it was, they'd eventually become saints. If they couldn't be the hero, they only became unnecessary people for the 7 celestial sages. Furthermore, they were both too much of geniuses. They hadn't accepted Ruminus's mind rule, as they were affiliated to the Church of Ingrasia Kingdom without staying in the holy capital. In other words, according to the 7 celestial sages, the two had been a two-edged sword. In ability, the two could become strong individuals which could threaten them, or worst, the two could become existences that would even jeopardize their position. Although the two hadn't seemed to notice the existence of Demon Lord Ruminus, it was certain that the two had some kind of doubts about it. Whilst admitting the ability of those two, to they who wouldn't become their comrades. The 7 celestial sages had manipulated the Pope and ordered for them to do the purification of a large-scale undead disaster. It was officially announced as an indirect subjugation request, but the two people had strong senses of justice and bit the bait splendidly. The two willingly went to Great Jura Forest. And there, the two would perish while bringing down the dragon zombie together as the 7 celestial sages had planned, or it should have been. It can't be, for him to be alive. It was the same thought for all of the 7 celestial sages. Well, what should we do? That's the question. Right now, it's almost impossible to defeat Adalman and Albert. Besides, in this situation we don't have such free time as to have internal conflict. That is so. It would be excellent if the two beat both of the giants. If they lose, we won't be safe. That's right. We are to only help the princess. I agree. About those two, let's think about it after they survive. The 7 celestial sages decided on their plan. Without using any underhanded plans, as the situation was a pressing one. They threw away their wicked thoughts and moved to attack the enemy as according to the initial plan. They had, in their own ways, began their action in order to help Demon Lord Ruminas, who is their respected and adored master. 1. Fushishia Gundam Suzu, Emudara region, Fushin Sha equals immortal, undead, Gundam equals army, Suzu equals creation. Undead army creation. 2 Seiken Dushi, SEI equals holy Ken / Kabushi equals fist, Dushi equals monk. 3 Ju equals miss, lass. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 209, Sprout of Envy. Sprout of Envy. Guy and Chloe have been locked in combat for 3 consecutive days. Although neither of them are taking it seriously, fatal attacks are mixed in every so often. They are probing each other, trying to discern the scope of their opponent's strength. Die, Calamity Claw. Naive. Chloe received the attack that Guy released towards her with the spirit sword she wielded. Her spirit armament has evolved into a god-class weapon. It hasn't been destroyed, even while she's used it to receive attacks from the strongest demon lord, Guy. Not just that, she makes use of the sword's capabilities to repel Guy's attacks. Chloe moves in for a counter-attack. But, strength escapes from Chloe's body. Gofu. Tien, it's a coughing/choking sound. She began coughing up blood, and blood started flowing from her eyes and nose. The previous attack was supposed to have been perfectly parried. But, that was only what it looked like on the surface. An attack invisible to the naked eye made contact with Chloe, and was attempting to take her life. Die, Calamity Claw. Without any change in expression, Chloe evaded the attack with large exaggerated movements. Then, she took stance with her sword pointing towards Guy, like nothing had happened. Her face, which should have been bloodied after receiving Guy's attack, was now back to her normal pretty face as though nothing ever happened. It was a mysterious phenomenon, as though showing Guy's earlier attack hadn't happened. Ahahahaha. As expected of the hero. Not shabby at all. I'm pretty amazed you managed to avoid this attack. Right. You'd probably be dying right about now, if you received that attack instead. Chloe gave a mild response, in return to Guy's honest praise. She didn't give much of a response to the many other taunts that came after. That was because she knew what he said was all true. Which was the reason for how complicated she felt on the inside. The attack that Guy used, Calamity Claw, was an attack that carried an intense poison property. But it wasn't something on the level of a poison, it was an attack that infected the target with an infectious virus, which also corrodes the mind, starting from the point of contact. In fact, Chloe has really died once to this attack. Although her absolute defense automatically blocks incoming attacks, it doesn't stop the virus which spread to her from her sword. As such, Chloe met her demise from the virus that was spread onto her from receiving Guy's attack. Using ultimate skill Space-Time King, Yog-Sothoth, she successfully evades the attack, after remembering the memory of dying once in the future. After experiencing the event once, she returns to the past. In other words, remembering a memory from the future. To the opponent facing her, it simply looked like Chloe made the lucky choice of evading the attack, but the truth is far from that. With great confidence, Chloe was making the best choices in defense she could choose. But, even though she is totally evading Guy's attacks by making use of her ability to remember future events, Chloe had no margin for making mistakes. Compared to Feldera, one of the strongest existences, whom she had battled in the past, she needs to take all of Guy's attacks seriously. Even though there was no intent of taking the fight seriously from either side, attacks that are lethal get mixed in nonchalantly, it wasn't a situation where she could be complacent. Intricately cunning, Guy released attacks that meticulously attempted to set up his opponent in layer upon layers of traps. but his intentions have been fairly obvious, as he has been using attacks that could be recovered from, even if the attacks were able to outright kill Chloe. He was planning to get Rimuru to owe him one, from releasing Chloe from her curse. But, Chloe knew that such a feat was impossible. The reason was that Chloe remembered, in one of the instances where she died, Guy tried to undo the curse but regretfully mumbled so it failed. This proved that the curse that Yuuki cast on her wasn't something that could be so easily removed. So Chloe moved according to what she was ordered to do, which is to keep Guy occupied. And from that, she understood just how nonsensically strong Guy is. He's seen through all of Chloe's attacks. Even though neither of them are taking this fight seriously, Chloe has already died 3 times. It wasn't caused by any single unavoidable attack, but was more of a series of moves which ended up leading to her death. It looked as though she was being given choices, but in fact, the whole fight has been moving in whichever direction that Guy wanted. There was once, where she died due to her own carelessness. She made the choice to try and evade an attack by stopping time, but ended up getting her heart pierced. This simply means that Guy can move normally even when time is stopped. After remembering that result, Chloe has foregone with the usage of time-stopping abilities, as all it would do was let her opponent know she can stop time. Guy has not made use of time-stopping in his attacks. If he did that, Chloe would also be able to move, which meant that knowledge of her being a space-time type ability user would be made known to Guy. But Guy wouldn't make such a simple attack. On this point, he was an opponent which was very different when compared to Feldera. Having absolute confidence in his skills, he wasn't one who would use such ability-driven attacks. Which was why Chloe was embarrassed at the fact that she made such a mistake herself. When one releases an attack, one needs to take into account the possibility of the attack being guarded, so there was a need to chain attacks to the point of a finishing blow. This turn of events got Chloe to reaffirm this need. This was something she was supposed to have understood from her long journey. Chloe was reflecting on her own actions, as she didn't notice she has gotten negligent, because she had attained an ability which was all too powerful. And once again, she confronts Guy. If they both went at this seriously, the situation would probably be a whole lot more different than it is now. Guy wouldn't have the chance to play around comparatively, and Chloe had the confidence to defeat Guy with her full power absolute blade flash. But, if it was an all-out brawl against Guy without the use of any abilities, there was almost no doubt that Chloe would be defeated. That was just how powerful Ultimate Skill Space-Time King, Yog-Sothoth, was. Which was also why it wasn't a good thing that she has been so reliant on it up till now. Through this battle with Guy, Chloe was brought back to the basics. She returned to the moment with her honest feelings and renewed focus. Guy squinted at the appalling results. He has yet to meet such a formidable foe, ever since his encounter with White Ice Dragon 1, Veltsard. He prided himself to have become even stronger than before, but looks like this still wasn't enough. Chloe never fell for Guy's traps. Another supposedly fatal attack whiffs. His many feints mixed into his attacks were all seen through. That's damn impressive, thought Guy. Though neither of them are taking this seriously, would he be able to win if he did? Even if he asks this question, it's not like he has the answer to it, would be his honest thought. What this means, is that he has to acknowledge it. The fact that, the true hero, Chloe Obel, is an existence that was equal to Guy Crimson. What strength! Guy let out a content snicker. Here he was thinking of defeating Chloe and removing the curse that was plaguing her, as a card he can play against Demon Lord Rimuru, but things aren't going as planned. Chloe was an even stronger being than Guy has assumed her to be. For Guy, he was already at the point of a farce. No shit, dude. Against Chloe's ultra first-class sword arm, Guy was unarmed. At this point, this was more of an insult than anything, so Guy drew his sword whilst thinking of such thoughts. Take pride in the fact that you have managed to make me draw my sword. As he said that to Chloe, he pulls a sword out of another dimension. Demon Sword Earth 2 has been yielded to Milim. To replace that, he created Demon Sword World 3. It was the strongest sword in existence, forged from the hardest physical element known as the Star Heart. Compared to Milim's sword, this sword has been maintained constantly, and it gave off a rainbow-colored luster. The demon sword was pulsing, as it was gripped in Guy's hand. Suppressing the waves emanating from the sword, he took a stance facing Chloe. He had the intention of enjoying a pure duel of only sword play. He was confident in his chances of victory against Rudra or Veltsard. But, as he faced Chloe, the strongest hero, he had no such confidence in being victorious. This was what it really meant, to be on equal terms. Although he has been treating Leon and Veltsard as though he would a friend, deep inside he knew that neither of them could be called equal to himself. That was why, he was elated. This is much more than I could have ever hoped for, hero Chloe. With tensions as high as that one time when he took on Stellar Dragon King, Veldanava, Guy confronts Chloe. There was someone observing the battle between the two of them. It was White Ice Dragon, Veltsard. Seeing that Guy is enjoying himself, she bit her lip. That which was swirling within her innermost thoughts, was a searing blaze. Anger? No, it's something else. It was envy. Veltsard has been envious for the longest time, ever since her brother, Stellar Dragon King, Veldanava acknowledged Guy. Staying humorous about the topic, she kept her true thoughts away from Guy. What was coursing through that heart of hers now, were the contents of a message that she received a few days ago. There was a special form of telepathic communication limited to the true dragons. It was a message from her supposedly deceased elder brother Veldanava, that has her bewildered. Would you mind destroying Guy, for my sake? She lets out a sigh, as she thought of the contents. She has knowledge of the current dispute with Yuuki, and also about the contents of Demon Lord Rimura's request to Guy. To think the true identity of Angramania that resides within Yuuki would be Veldanava. Veltsard was hesitant. In truth, there was no need for her to hesitate. Her original purpose was to observe Guy by getting closer to him. Except, she has enjoyed it a little too much, the time which she has spent together with Guy. The proud Guy. The foolish Guy. The kind Guy. The cruel Guy. The fearsome Guy. And, the friend who was acknowledged by her brother, Guy. She has grown fond of spending time together with him, who has many faces. But, if her brother is telling her to kill Guy, she. Also, Guy would most likely never show her that face of his own volition. The face he has when he enjoys the battle as much as he is now. When he fought Veltsard in the past, it was as though Guy was an adult taking on a child, taking pains to not cause unto her undue harm. It was probably since then, when she began feeling the sprout of envy within her heart towards the man acknowledged by her brother, the demon lord known as Guy Crimson. And Guy, he treats me kindly. But, he never did see me as an equal to himself. That was because, you were too weak. I am strong. I am of the strongest species, a true dragon. No, you are weak. Even now, you are still unable to stand beside Guy as equals, am I wrong? That's. Do you want power? If you had more power, you'll be able to stand alongside Guy. But, that is not what I wish for. Are you sure about that? It is because you do not have enough power, that Guy doesn't look at you. If I had power, if I was even more powerful than before, would Guy finally look at me? Certainly. Maybe even more than just that, he might even grant you what you have always wished for. Ah. Power, I want more power. Hearing those words, an evil will somewhere let out a snicker. Now then, release that envy within you. The keyword reverberated in her head. That's right, this was the keyword, to releasing the ability that was carved in Veltsard's heart. And thus, the seal on envy, that Stellar Dragon King, Veldanava set in place, began to unravel. After you kill Guy, you can do whatever you desire. She has gotten her elder brother's permission. She now releases her original abilities, and gain new powers. At that very moment, White Ice Dragon, Veltsard's heart fell under the influence of Velda, and any trace of her sanity were blown away. Among the few rampaging true dragons, her strength was second only to Stellar Dragon King, Veldanava. Immense energy waves raged about, and began filling the land. Though Hirari tried to stop Veltsard head-on, it only resulted in her getting her upper and lower body separated into two from a single strike of Veltsard's magic. The magic was overpowering, it showed how properly controlled the potent energy was. And she awakens. True to her desires, a goddess of envy. All for the sake of killing Guy, to fulfill her greatest desires. In addition to her own ultimate skill patience Lord Gabriel, she obtains ultimate skill envious Lord Leviathan as well. I shall be the one to kill Guy. She stays true to her desires, blindly following that one motive. Chloe and Guy retreated from where they were at the same time. An incredulously powerful absolute frost wave pierces through the ground where they previously stood, and began breaking down the molecular structure of the ground. What stood there was a beautiful woman with glacial white hair and alluring blue diamond eyes. Veltsard, you. Oh, that's it, seems I forgot about this. So, you have been harboring envy all this while. To Guy's murmur, Veltsard showed a slight smile. Guy, did you know I have, for the longest time? And then, the world stopped. It was now secluded, a world of indefinite suspension. By the will of one of its rulers, all laws of motion came to a stop. All except the few who were unaffected by this frozen world. Chloe, Guy, and Veltsard. The three of them were observing each other, in this world where time does not flow. A world where even time has stopped flowing. But, neither Chloe nor Guy have problems moving. The problem is that for Chloe, there were now two enemies. This turned her already low chance at victory to no chance at all. Differing from her own ability to stop time, it can be said that Veltsard has a near limitless amount of energy. That was the kind of amount she felt emanating from Rimuru when she sparred with him. Which means, the current time stop is going to last for quite a while. Though movement is possible, her ability to remember future memories has now been sealed. Having one of her trump cards, a lifeline ability, sealed is a big blow to her. She now needs to do whatever she can to survive, until the moment when time is allowed to flow once more. The situation now isn't one where she can afford the leisure of holding back. Though Guy isn't a real enemy to her, he isn't an ally either. The biggest problem is still the fact that Chloe is still bound to her curse, and is unable to make any moves of her own will. This is the worst possible situation. Chloe took a careful stance, as she prepared herself for the battle with the two of them. Guy had mixed feelings, being slightly perplexed but also deeply understanding his current predicament. At the same time he was thinking, so that's why envy took so long to fully sprout. This looks bad. As I have given my word to Rimuru, I had only intended to play around a little. Time to think. Chloe is under the influence of Velda's curse. She seems to be valiantly resisting it, but her free will is decisively withheld from her. That means, co-op with her is out of the question. And, Veltsard is. TCH. She's totally being controlled. She was giving off the feeling of moving of her own will, but is actually being made to think that is what's happening. Guy noticed that it has been a very long time since he felt this much anger flow out from the depths of his heart. Unforgivable. To put your filthy hands on what's mine. That's some balls you got there, Velda, to control my cute Veltsard. If you wanna die that badly, I'll give you just that. With an intensely prickly anger, Guy's crimson hair started to bristle up. He needs to confront Chloe, so as not to outright kill her, but fatal attacks where revival is possible are acceptable to deal with her. And at the same time, protect Chloe from Veltsard's attacks, and return Veltsard to her normal self. This looks a little too hard, even for the awesome me. He was going TCH in his head, while he prepared himself for the worst. And, that was the very moment, when Guy confirms that he was going to totally kill Velda. It was also the moment, where he confirms that Velda is not equal to Veldanava. That guy, he wouldn't stoop to paltry moves as low as this. If he was really serious, something like destroying the world, he can do it all by himself. Those were Guy's true thoughts. Which was why, he was able to cut the emotions he had towards Velda without hesitation. Veldanava has passed on. And he sharpens his gaze, as he turns his attention to the two others he is about to face. The situation seems to be a three-way confrontation. But, Veltsard is the one with the biggest advantage. As she has nothing to worry about, and only needs to advance towards her own goal. Thus, the showdown in the frozen world is about to begin. 1 Shirokari Ryu. 2. Maken, Tenma, Asu, when it appears first with Milim before, the author didn't give it furigana. 3. Maken, Sekai, Werido. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 210, Leon's Feelings. The battle between Leon and Kazarim continued for a full day and night. He was not simply calling himself Great Demon Lord for nothing, as Kazarim possessed an overwhelming amount of energy incomparable to what he had before. Even after fighting a lengthy battle, he showed no sign of exhaustion. Meanwhile, Leon and Misery were also the same, but even though they were fighting together, they were still toyed with by Kazarim. The only reason why Leon was able to continue fighting was because Kazarim was going easy on him. Leon noticed this and ground his teeth. Will I meet my doom here? Leon asked himself. If that were inevitable, then so be it. Until now, he had lived by crushing the weak. Of course, when he thought about it as his own turn finally coming up, he could accept it obediently. No. Would that really be fine for him? He spared no sacrifice when it came to his search for Chloe. He even learned summoning magic himself, and had summoned several people in his selfishness. One of them was Claude, and another was the burned girl. Claude vowed his vengeance against Leon, challenging him countless times, yet before they knew it, his attempts at revenge had ceased, and the two came to recognize each other. Leon believed himself to be selfish and cared not for others' expectations. That was natural. He might not have been able to survive in this harsh world otherwise. Finding and protecting that girl could be said to be his only reason for living, yet that seemed a dream within a dream. Therefore, he thought, it can't be helped that he would be resented, and so he continued to cruelly cut down the weak. That was Leon's way of life, the true reason why he couldn't be a hero even though he had awakened as a hero. A human is a creature who has a hard time understanding another person's mind. They live without showing anyone their own mind. Therefore, there was no one with the desire to understand Leon's feelings, even if he wished for it. A person like Claude is an exception among the exceptions. Ergo, he thought that for people whom he summoned selfishly had every right to enact revenge against him. He saw the Silver Knight Allrose fall down from the corner of his eye. Moderate Clown Troop is a gathering of hedonists. They fight against anyone by request without any principle. Kazarim gathered such people, possibly in part due him been warped by defeat in his fight against Leon. It reached the point where he showed an obstinate obsession for Leon and lined up his subordinates for varied harassment. The reason why Clayman acted hostile toward Leon could be traced back to Kazarim's obsession. Regardless of their appearance, these were once Kazarim's companions. They wouldn't be weak. No one would think that the devil-called footman with a body that fat could be toying around with Allrose and his quick movement. Allrose's swordsmanship was top class, but because he's a master of proper swordsmanship, he's weak against irregular attacks. His weakness was seen through in no time and he received a blow. If he hadn't gained the power of the Demon Duke class, he would be dead because of the blow just now. Thanks to the fact that he became a half-spiritual life form, even if he received injuries to the extent of having a part of his body blown off, it would recover in an instant. But, he might not able to continue this for a long time. It's clear that Footman surpassed him in ability. The combination of Yellow Knight Kizna and White Knight Maetel fought well against the girl-like devil called Tyr. So, it may be said that they're putting up a good fight. Because they are still alive. In ability, Tyr surpasses the two overwhelmingly. If Tyr fought them individually, she could have reaped their lives immediately. The pair was somehow still alive thanks to the demon's power they gained and their combination. Maetel can't master the demon's power in the first place. As she was a user of holy magic, her affinity with the demonic attribute was terrible. Various applications were possible depending on the usage method, but unfortunately she didn't have enough experience. Thanks to the defensive power of Kizna, they feel like they can get over Tyr's attack somehow by being devoted to a defensive fight. It seemed that it was a matter of time before it be broken. And the biggest problem was Laplace. He's strong, too strong. He's undoubtedly the strongest class. Although he doesn't seem to possess any ultimate skill, it won't be weird if he will master the ability once he acquired it. He's still having some leeway even when the strongest knight among Leon's subordinate, the Black Knight Claude and the Red Knight be his opponent at the same time. Ha! Give up, that feint is obvious. Whoops, danger danger. That just now almost hit me. But, bad luck. Oh my. Maybe, it already ended. He cracks jokes with such feeling, doing an easy attack while provoking Claude and Fran repeatedly. As one would expect, the two people didn't get provoked. But, as Laplace's aim was to make fun of the two, there's no sign that he would stop his provocation. Even if it didn't disturb the two's feelings nor hindering the two's thoughts, Laplace's disturbing words seemed to show an effect. In addition to it, Laplace's attack is not out of the ordinary, but the damage seems to be gradually accumulated. It could be perceived from the movement of Claude and Fran, which gradually became duller. With an opponent as troublesome as the devil Laplace, Leon should be the one to fight such a powerful enemy. It might be said that the situation was very bad. Putting such a situation in his view, Leon continues asking himself. Claude came to follow Leon, the number of his companions also begun to increase, and before he noticed, Leon became a demon lord. He united the oppressed demi-humans, small and weak demon race one, and created a place for them to live in peace inside the Great Jura Forest. This was because taking control of a domain by force was easy to establish a new country. His purpose was to gather information. He only wanted people who could investigate information to become his hands and feet. He protects them with his strength and they work for Leon to realize his wish. On such give-and-take relationship, a subordinate-superior relationship was run. He built a castle on the territory of the demon lords and based in there. And then he sent his subordinates to various places and collected information about Chloe. It was at that time that he repulsed Kazarim. If he thinks about it, that was the start of their connection. The situation won't be like this if he dealt the decisive blow properly at that time. It was the same when he fought Yuuki. Leon ridiculed his naiveness. He discovered a new continent afterwards and spent his time to build the current El Dorado. When he found Chloe, he wanted to prepare a country where she'll be able to live in peace. Therefore, it was necessary to protect the people who lived in the country. Leon gradually came to think about the people who follow him and the people under his protection, not just about himself. He can't jeopardize the country which he created with so much effort. For such reason, he decided to appropriate Kazarim's castle inside the Great Jura Forest as his cover. He can't help but to use it as his first castle was destroyed in his battle with Kazarim, but unexpectedly it wasn't bad. It was really suitable as a test site where he test out various magic. Leon performed various experiments in this castle. Because the Great Jura Forest became a sanctuary where people who feared Feldera won't dare to enter, it was helpful to avert the other demon lord's eyes from him. And, it was in this castle where he did his last summon. The girl who summoned to answer Leon's request was suffering major burns and dying. He was able to save her life with recovery magic. However, she will only die because she was too young to have safely crossed the word boundary and her magic essence went amok. Then it would be better for him to let her die this way, but it might be better to make her suffering prolonged. Thinking so, Leon takes an interest in the girl. But, help, please help. The girl said so. Leon saw the strong will to not give up in her eyes and extended his hand to the girl. And then he noticed her high compatibility to flame and recalled the existence of the high-ranking spirit that's Ifrit. There's perhaps a possibility of compatibility, but if it fails Ifrit will disappear too. But, because he only took it from Ramiris in a fit of anger before, it won't be painful to lose it. The girl survived splendidly. Then, against himself, who summoned her into this world without permission, the girl has the right for revenge. If the girl named Shizue Izawa was going to kill him, he would accept it directly from the front. At the time the strongest and the famous hero attacked, it was for such reason that he left without hesitating. As he might be defeated by the hero. But, the hero will surely save the girl who is a former human. He had such prediction. After all, unlike the failure the likes of him, who was only strong, she was called as the true hero, the strongest title in the history. If he thought about it, if he had met the hero there, he might have been able to realize that she was Chloe. But, it didn't happen. Ironically, one came from the other side, while the other one missed the other by running away. What am I really trying to do? Leon blows out a sigh. Kazarim's attack is harsh without cutting any corners. It would be naive for him to think that he can deal with it while he's in deep thoughts. However, even so. Leon Oniakin, you had searched for me this whole time, right? Hehe. You see, I've always wanted to meet you too. He was finally able to meet her the other day. With Chloe, whom he searched all this time. She seemed to be fine. But, because of the curse, she doesn't seem to be able to act freely currently. Still. You see, Rimuru-sensei had promised me that he would surely save me. I believe in sensei. The sensei who received Shizu-sensei, Shizu-san's feelings and saved us. Chloe said so with straight eyes. The girl whom Leon saved whimsically seemed to follow a strange fate and ended up as Chloe's teacher. On the contrary, she met Demon Lord Rimuru and led him to Chloe. It will be an unbelievable story to say that all of it is by coincidence. If he didn't save Shizue Izawa, perhaps Chloe would be dead due to the magic essence rampage. If you think about it so, then all the things that he has done all this time wasn't for vain, or so he thinks. No, he might only want to think so. However, even so, he was able to meet with Chloe again in this way. Then it was enough. Therefore, have I been satisfied with it? To the extent I accepted my death. Chloe has someone named Rimuru who she can rely on. Even if he's gone, he can entrust her at ease. But, is he fine with that? He's conscious that he never did anything in his life that he can be proud of, but Leon thought that he can't afford to left everything to Chloe and ended up doing nothing. Besides, he can't give up if the demon Lord Rimuru that Chloe believed in was killed. I don't think that guy will be killed so easily though. He cannot help but to say that he's still naive by having such thoughts. In the first place, he couldn't leave his important Chloe to such worthless guy. Phew. I still have a long way to go. It's not in my character to easily give up. Leon, who was blown off and thrown to the ground, calmly stood up. His eyes are calm, as his hesitation is cleared up, his body overflowed with energy. Leon remembered the meaning to fight and regained his unbroken will. Looking at Leon, who stood up, Kazarim knit her eyebrows. He snickered as he would torment him after he completely broke Leon's pride. Apparently, Leon's mind didn't seem to be broken yet. Hey, did you get scared of dying suddenly? You who can't match me, you won't able to do anything even if you stood up. Kazarim speaks in sickening woman's tone in spite of her body which already turned into a stubborn man. However, it didn't like his sex has changed, it can be said that the only change is that his body had been optimized. After all, his voice still remains that of a female elf. Leon stares at Kazarim while thinking that his voice is unpleasant. His ultimate skill Purity Lord Metatron is the ultimate power of holy attribute. But, Kazarim's ultimate skill Dominion Lord Melchizedek is a ultimate power with both attributes of holy and demonic. Therefore, all Leon's attacks are counterbalanced and he'll only suffer damage from the power which exceed his. It's not about affinity or anything, only that his ability is completely inferior to Kazarim's ability. For example, he might be able to seal him if he used Triangle Pyramid. But, even if he honestly tries to seal her, it was bound to be avoided. Moreover, there's a possibility that even his strongest sealing technique may be broken in the worst case. After all, it's an absolute sealing barrier against demonic attribute, but Kazarim also have the holy attribute. This side might receive a fatal attack in the gap when he tries it carelessly. She's a troublesome opponent. Leon was thinking about the means to fight Kazarim while handling her attacks calmly. Leon-sama, do you have a good plan? Misery asked. I have none. You're the same too, aren't you? All demonic attributed attacks would be nullified, won't they? Misery was in the same situation as Leon, all her attacks were counterbalanced and she received damage from the excess energy. She seemed to begin to do some makeshift attacks, but everything was pinned down by Kazarim's power. Naturally, all magic was nullified. That's natural, since magic doesn't work against ultimate skill. Yes. It's very troublesome as he has the ability with both attribute of holy and demonic. Moreover, it's not just that. Kazarim's energy when converted into magic essence, seems to be more than 3 times than mine. It was a hopeless number. Right now, Misery is equal to Leon, as she has become an awakened demon lord class. her energy also greatly increases. But, Kazarim has a 3 times more energy compared to Misery. Comparing it with himself, Leon estimated that Kazarim's energy too to be a little less than 3 times of his spiritual power to handle the energy of pure light. That source becomes the aggregate amount of the holy aura which become energy, but even in that energy, Kazarim is above those people. As in the performance of the ability and the quantity of energy. That doesn't mean that he has 6 times more power than them if holy and magic combined. He was simply changing the energy with his ability. That's why, he's more troublesome. In a word, it means he completely put the ability under control. Just like the name, Dominion Lord Melchizedek. Ho 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 ho. It's useless, useless. You two can't beat me. That's right, beg for your life. And then lick my shoes. If you do so, I may spare your life. A distorted smile floated as Kazarim suggests, but it's useless to hear it. After all, he didn't intend to really spare their life and only want to satisfy his desire to want to see their ungraceful appearance. Mostly because of such warped desire, he's going easy on them. It was foolish, but Kazarim made that grudge his reason to live. In Leon's view, he can see footmen tormenting Alros. If things keep going this way, it'd be dangerous. But, he didn't have any room to help him. Although he made his mind to fight until the bitter end, the situation remains at its worst. At that time, Bufwu, raising a scream, footman was blown away. Who is that? Without any time to even think so. Are we late? No, looks like we barely made it in time. Such conversation was heard. 2 people who standing still without letting out any presence could be seen. Who are they? Such is Leon's question. Nice to meet you, I'm Benimaru. The number 1 subordinate, the faithful servant of the great demon Lord Rimuru-sama. The one who bear the title of Flare Lord. I wonder who should I kill? A red-haired, handsome man declares while sprouting a refreshing smile. And faithful? I'm certain that you are the most insincere one though. You're overshadowed next by Diablo or Zijin, you know. A blue-haired, handsome man standing next to Benimaru while letting out such tsukamai. Receiving Leon's gaze. I am not a person worthy to introduce myself. I will only say that I'm the faithful shadow of the great demon Lord Rimuru-sama. Well, don't worry about it. When I kill you all, there won't be any chance for us to meet anymore. He declared so while having a fearless smile. Hey, you. Don't tattle about it, okay? Never spread the rumor about it, okay? Stupid, don't underestimate Diablo's intelligence network. Even if I don't say it, that demon will somehow hear about it. Put that aside, don't get carried away and thinking you can rampage around since it's been a while. Although the two are joking around, they're not relaxing their guard at all. Obviously indicating that they're not an ordinary person. Benimaru and also Rimuru's shadow? To make even such people as his subordinates. And from their behavior, Leon realized it immediately without any doubt. The hearsay that, the demon Lord Rimuru is dead, is to deceive the enemy. Similarly, Kazarim seemed to realize it too. Don't he be joking? Demon Lord Rimuru is dead. Such small fry introducing himself as a great demon lord is so presumptuous. He shouted in a loud voice. But, that shout made the two angry. Benimaru loses his refreshing smile and his face becomes expressionless. The other person, Sui, who introduced himself as the great demon lord's shadow, is expressionless by nature, but cold light flickered in his eyes. The two shout at the same time. I will kill you. So. And the situation of the war enters a new phase. 1. It's not the same demon like Diablo, Diablo is Akuma, here the kanji is Mizoku. 2. It's written as amount of Holy Spirit here. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.